Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Rookie 9 see Naruto scars. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto and his group were walking back to Konoha after finishing their mission in Wave Country. They had stopped for a break in the forest to rest a little. Kakashi had decided to talk to Naruto about something, so he walked over to him and started to talk with him. Naruto, I need to have a word with you, Kakashi said in a stern voice. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asked in a confused tone. Naruto, you're too flashy. A ninja prides himself on stealth. You not only make your appearance known to the enemy when you appear, but the color you wear just screams, "Here I am, kill me." You need to tone down, Kakashi said in a semi-upset yet earnest tone. But Kakashi-sensei, if I don't wear bright colors I won't stand out, he said in a pleading type of way. Kakashi didn't look to be fazed by Naruto's interjection. Fine Naruto, if you wish to get killed because you would rather make an impressionable appearance, be my guest. At this, Kakashi walked over and started to talk to Sasuke about learning a new fire jutsu. Naruto started to think about what Kakashi had just said. It made sense, but it just wasn't him to change his appearance just like that. They started their journey again and it took a couple of hours to get back to Konoha. When they got back, Kakashi said that he would turn in the mission report and gave them the rest of the day off. Naruto thought that now would be a good time to try and get Sakura to go out with him. Hey Sakura-chan. Sakura turned to look at her ever so annoying teammate. What do you want? I'm busy, Sakura yelled. Well, I just thought that since Kakashi-sensei gave us the rest of the day off we could go get something to eat, Naruto said in a pleading voice. Why in hell would I want to spend my free time with you? Sakura yelled once again and didn't wait for Naruto to say anything and ran off to catch up with Sasuke. Naruto decided he was going to spend the rest of his day at home. Naruto awoke to his alarm going off. He wasn't in all that good of a mood and he hasn't been since he got back from the Wave Country. He got out of bed nonetheless and made his way to his closet to get something to wear. What should I wear? Thought Naruto as he looked into his closet. As he looked in, all he saw were all his orange jumpsuits. He remembered something Kakashi had said to him the day before. PSSH, Kakashi-sensei only cares about Sasuke, Naruto said sadly. Of course he wouldn't care if I died on a mission. With that said, Naruto got all his jumpsuits together and threw them in his trash. Then scavenged through his clothes looking for something else to wear. He found a pair of black pants and a black muscle shirt and put them on. He looked in the mirror and was a little dissatisfied, so he looked around some more and found a dark red vest and put it on. As he continued through his apartment he ended up cleaning it completely and found some sunglasses, so he put them on. There, now that I'm in dark colors, maybe Kakashi-sen's. Naruto cut himself off when he thought of something. Since he doesn't want to teach me anything, he's not that good of a sensei. Well, if Kakashi-san doesn't want to teach me anything, I'll learn by myself. With that said, Naruto put on a pair of black boots and went to the bridge where Team 7 usually meets. At the bridge, as Naruto walked up to the bridge, he saw Sakura trying to get a date out of everyone's favorite, Uchiha. Yeah right, maybe I should talk to Sakura-chan. Then Naruto thought of something. She doesn't care about me, she doesn't even acknowledge me, thought Naruto with a look of gloom on his face. Naruto decided to just find a spot, stay there and be quiet. As he looked he realized that the two of them hadn't even acknowledged the fact that he was there. I guess it doesn't matter if they know I'm here or not, thought Naruto. Sakura had stopped bothering Sasuke and sat down for some rest while waiting for Kakashi, while Sasuke was in his own little world thinking about what his brother did and how he will pay. About 2 hours later Kakashi appeared and greeted the group. Yo, said Kakashi in his usual tone. You're late, could be heard throughout Konoha, but Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura realized something. Sakura was the only one who said it, which was unusual to say the least because Naruto would say it with Sakura and make it even louder. When the three looked around for Naruto they were shocked by what they saw. What's happened to Naruto? Is the only thing that came to mind when they caught sight of Naruto, who was leaning up against a tree with his eyes closed. Their eyes widened at what they saw him wearing. All the vibrant color they were used to suddenly changed to a blood red vest, a black muscle shirt, a pair of black jeans, a pair of boots, and sunglasses. Naruto, what happened? Sakura seemed to get out, still a little dumbstruck. Naruto lifted his head up to see all three staring at him with wide eyes and mouths hanging open. Everything is fine. Why is something the matter? Naruto said with no emotion, just loud enough to be heard, which just made the three worry more. Well, you look different. Why the sudden change? Sakura said, still the only one to speak. Naruto contemplated this question and decided to just say something and get it over with. Well, Sakura-chan, this shot everyone back because this is something they had never heard before. His voice had been void of emotion and was a nice low tone. I decided it was time for a change, so I found these clothes lying around my house and decided to wear them instead of my normal jumpsuit. Naruto said, still emotionless and unmoved. What the heck, Naruto would never give up his jumpsuit, it's what makes him, thought Kakashi. Humph, finally the Dobi decides to change, thought Sasuke. I wonder what's wrong with Naruto, he seems a little upset or mad, thought Sakura, a little distraught. Well, everyone, we have a mission to do, so let's get to it, Kakashi said a little nervously. Naruto changed overnight. I'm going to have to report this to Hokage-sama. After that, thought the team did their assigned mission, and to their surprise Naruto didn't foul up once. After the mission, Naruto started walking to a store to buy some new clothes since he trashed all of his. After walking a little ways, Naruto noticed a box following him. I don't need this right now, Naruto thought. Konohamaru, come out from underneath the box please, Naruto said in disapproving tone. Aha, just as I thought, from my rival for Hokage, said Konohamaru in a cheery mood. I'm busy right now, I have to go shopping. What do you want? Said in a cold manner. Naruto ni-san, you said you would play ninja with us today, said Moegi in a tone that was way too cute to ignore and with puppy dog eyes to match. Damn it, I hate it when she does that. Well, might as well help get them trained, Naruto thought. Okay, here's what we're going to do, you guys run and use stealth to try and evade me. I'll give you guys a little head start so you'll last longer. How does that sound? Ha, that's too easy, you'll never get us, said Konohamaru, and with that they started to run, but when they got around the corner Naruto heard Moegi scream. So he ran to them as fast as he could. When he rounded the corner he saw a guy and girl standing there. The guy was holding Konohamaru by his scarf. That hurt, you little brat, said the guy holding the little one. I'll make you pay for hitting me. Let him go, Kankuro, we don't want to get in trouble once we get here, do we? The girl spoke in I don't want to get in trouble tone. He needs to learn not to mess with people who are bigger than him, Tamari, Kankuro said in a displeasing tone. You should put him down immediately. Naruto finally spoke out. Everyone looked. You don't want to get hurt, do you? Ha, who's going to stop me, you? I doubt you even have the gall to step up to me, Kankuro said with a smirk. Even if he does have it in him, I'll just get him in my chakra strings. He's planning something, but I'll just do what Kakashi-san did to me. With that, Tamari and Kankuro heard a puff and Kankuro was uppercutted by Naruto. Tamari looked back and saw Naruto standing in the same place with the exception that a shocked Konohamaru was standing right next to him. Then she looked where Kankuro was standing moments ago to see another Naruto there. How in the hell, what kind of bunchin is that? Thought a very shocked Tamari. While you're visiting other villages that aren't your own, you shouldn't fight people who are stronger than you. With that, Naruto's clone threw a kunai at a tree near them only to have it deflected by sand. No point in hiding. Come out, Naruto said in an angry tone that sent chills down everyone's back. And then Gaara stepped out a little shocked, but hid it with a cold exterior. Konohamaru, you, Moegi and Udon, get out of here now, Naruto continued in his fierce voice as he released his clone. It didn't take the three of them long to get out of there. Naruto turned back to the sand trio and started walking towards them. Tamari instantly grabbed her fan ready to defend herself only to once again be shocked as Naruto casually walked past the three. This time the shock on Gaara's face could be seen a mile away while Kankuro was deathly afraid of Naruto. The tension among the three of them disappeared as Naruto walked around a corner. This incident didn't go unnoticed by an old man with a crystal ball, but even he was shocked with what Naruto did. I've never seen anyone combine the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and the Kawarimi no Jutsu together at once. Naruto is getting quite interesting, thought the old man. Naruto arrived at his destination to get new clothes and other items to increase his ninja skills. When he walked in he noticed the cold stares, but he just brushed them off. His first objective was scrolls and books. Since he was going to train himself he needed the proper information. He picked out a bunch of promising scrolls and came to a book called The Forge. He opened it up to find in detail how to create many different types of weapons. Figuring that it could be useful, Naruto decided to get it. Naruto then looked at the clothes and grabbed things that looked like they could go well together. He then took what he wanted and went to pay for them when he spotted something that could be extremely useful. "How much for that?" Naruto asked. The cashier looked to see where the boy was pointing and scoffed. Naruto was pointing at a nice-looking sword. The sheath was blood red and the hilt was engraved with flame. The cashier told Naruto the price, which was quite expensive. Fine, I'll take all of these." He placed what he grabbed on the counter. "And I'll also take the sword." The cashier was a little thrown back. The boy in front of him asked for something that pricey, but nonetheless he grabbed the sword and placed it on the counter. The cashier figured the boy was just messing with him and wouldn't be able to pay. To the cashier's surprise, Naruto pulled out a large amount of money and paid the man exactly what he owed him, and then put all the stuff into a bag he had also purchased, and then he went home. When Naruto got home, he decided he wanted to train a bit, but first he had to alter some of the things he got. He grabbed a vest and then some weighted metal and configured the vest to hold the metal. Then he grabbed some knee pads and elbow pads and did the same. He grabbed some newly acquired clothes and put them on, as well as the vest and the pads. He struggled to get up, but when he looked in the mirror he was a little shocked at his appearance. He stood there with his sunglasses on. He wore black ninja boots and black jeans. The weighted pads were placed under the pants as to not be seen. He wore a black tank top that could barely be seen because of the weighted vest, which was dark red verging black. You could see the upper part of his chest where neither the shirt nor the vest reached. If worn on a woman, her cleavage would be shown immediately. He wore the elbow pads on his elbows and he wore black gloves with a piece of metal on them, just like Kakashi. His pants weren't sitting right, so he decided to take his forehead protector and use it as a belt, so now it looks like he's wearing a belt with the symbol for Konoha as a buckle. He decided he should start his training by getting used to the weights. He figured he'd be a lot slower, so he left his house after strapping a pouch onto his side. He doesn't have his kunai holder on, and the pouch he put on is like the one Kakashi gets his book from. Naruto found it extremely difficult to move in his new weights as he walked through the forest to get to a training area. When he finally arrived at one, he looked around to make sure no one was there and sat down to take a 5-minute break. After he was rested enough to start his self-taught training, he got up and started to run around the training area to, of course, increase his speed and maneuverability. He was also trying to get a good grasp on how fast he could go and getting his endurance as high as he could so he can go really fast for long periods of time. He figured it would be best not to use chakra to help him, so his muscles became stronger instead of his chakra just giving him the speed he desired. Naruto took a break after running around for half an hour. His muscles ached like hell and he was extremely tired. He then decided to contemplate something. Mizuki said the fox Yukai was sealed inside me, and when I was in Wave Country fighting Haku I could feel such an incredible strength. That wasn't mine, it must have been the Yukai's. I wonder if it can give me such immense power. Can I communicate with it? Thought Naruto while unaware he was being watched by an old man. Naruto is becoming interesting indeed, using weights to increase his abilities, and now he's meditating. I've never seen him meditate before. Thought an old man from within the trees. Naruto opened his eyes to see that he wasn't in the forest anymore but in a cold dark hallway. I wonder where I am. He started walking down the hallway to a passage that had an unnatural aura in it. This must be my destination. He walked into the huge room to see a large cage with a flimsy looking seal on it. He could also feel the demonic presence in the room. Who dares to disturb my rest? Since I'm still sealed, it must be the brat that I'm bound to for all eternity, said the Grand Fox in an evil, sadistic way. It would assume so. So you're the Grand Fox Yukai everyone's afraid of. I see, Naruto said calmly while sizing the fox up. You don't seem scared of me, boy. Why don't you show me that gall of yours and step closer to me? The fox said in a mockingly way. To the fox's surprise, Naruto started walking forward and stopped a few feet away from the cage. The fox thought it smart to show superiority to the boy and thrust his claw at the boy. He was completely and utterly shocked that his claws stopped a mere inch away from the boy's face and he didn't even flinch. Well, fox, since we're stuck together, might as well know each other. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, and you? Said Naruto in his nice calm manner. I am the greatest of all you Kai, I am the Kyuubi. Kyuubi said in proud way. Hey, this kid is brave, I might get to like him. So why have you come to my humble abode? I just wanted to see if it was possible to communicate, said Naruto as he shrugged. Well, seeing as you decided to train yourself and you gained the ability to talk to me, I'll help you train when you want. I also suggest that you not only train your body, but also your mind. Kyuubi said, a little proud of the boy. Thanks, but what can I do to train my mind? Asked Naruto, a little confused. Well, you'll need to read some stuff. You're going to want a better overall knowledge. Since I've been around for a long time, I'll teach you. And you should also take up shogi, it will help you become a better strategist. If the greatest fox is within you, you should be just as cunning as a fox should be, my little kid. So you should stop acting stupid, it defiles us both, said Kyuubi reassuringly. Alright, I guess I should get back to training now. Bye Kyuubi-sensei. Naruto started to walk out of the room. Hey, that kid could become as great as I. While Naruto was resting, 3 figures approached the area and semi-hid behind bushes. 2 of the figures wore cloaks while the third wore a towel on his head. You guys didn't say I should bring my cloak, whispered the toweled figure. One of the cloaked figures was standing with his arms crossed while the other crouched out of sight. The toweled figure was holding a bush in front of his face while standing, so his bottom half was showing. Naruto awoke and started his training, but this time realized he was being watched by 4 figures and stopped his training. He looked up in the trees at the old man. He noticed no point in hiding. Thought the old man has jumped out of the tree. Naruto then looked at the last 3. Do you think he can see us? Said the toweled figure loud enough for everyone to hear. Naruto just stared at the one who made that comment. I assume that he has, said the crouching figure as she got up, waved and started leaving. The other cloaked figure merely gestured his fingers in a sort of wave while his arms were crossed and merely vanished. And the third figure started backing away ever so slowly, and when he got 5 feet he turned and mad dashed out of there. Okay, a weird bunch that was. The 2 remaining thought in unison. So shouldn't you be training with the rest of your team instead of by yourself? Asked the Hokage. Well, I would train with them if Sakura wasn't always swooning over Sasuke and Kakashi-san wasn't putting Sasuke ahead of me. This way I can make sure that I control the training so there isn't a problem, he said in dishearteningly tone of voice. I see. Well, make sure you still go to your team meetings and don't overwork yourself, said the Hokage as he left. Naruto started training again after the Hokage left. After about 3 hours of this he was thoroughly tired and hungry, so he headed to get something to eat. Yo, little kid, you should try eating something besides ramen, you need more nutrients, Kyuubi said. Like what? Ramen is good and the people at Ichiraku are nice to me, Naruto asked. Meat. Try fish, it's good. And you don't have to give up ramen, you should just have a different eating habit, like have your ramen at lunch and an actual meal for dinner, Kyuubi said. Fine, I guess. And Naruto came to a restaurant and got some evil glares when a waitress came to get his order. When he got his food he ate it silently, aware of all the glares. After he was done he placed a tip and paid his bill and then left. Might as well be nice to them even though they weren't to me. When he exited the building he saw a pink-haired girl and a boy with onyx hair walk up to him. Naruto. Sakura said, we've been looking for you, she said as she stopped in front of Naruto. And what do you 2 want? Naruto asked unemotionally. I wonder what they would want. He thought. It doesn't matter, just hurry up home, I have something to teach you, said Kyuubi. We wanted to ask if you were okay, you were acting different today, she asked a little concerned. Yeah, what happened, Dobi? Sasuke asked inconsiderately. Bah, I'm not a Dobi. Just wait Sasuke, I'll show you who's better, thought Naruto a little angry. Well Sasuke, Sakura-chan, Naruto said. I really don't have to tell you anything about what's happened to me, do I? Before Sasuke or Sakura could respond to Naruto, the sand trio walked up to the group. It's you 3 again, I'm not in the mood, I have other stuff to attend to. This shocked the 3, no one has ever talked this way to them. Sakura just looked at the 3 newcomers and Sasuke sized them up. Hello, my brother Gaara wanted to speak to you about earlier, Temari said, still a little shaken. Anyo, excuse me, but foreigners need to have prior notice to be here, so what are you doing here? Sakura asked. We're here for the Chunin exams and we're wondering if you were going to be in it. Gaara spoke, looking at Naruto. I don't know. I didn't know about it until now, so probably not, Naruto said before he turned to the sky. It's kinda late, I'll be going home now. Sakura had a frown on her face. Naruto turned to Sakura and Sasuke. Tell Kakashi-san that if he gets there before me I'll be training elsewhere. I'll still be there, I'll just be late. If he wants me he can find me. With that Naruto simply walked off. Sasuke and Sakura were simply shocked, they didn't even notice the sand trio leave. Naruto was walking in silence. He felt so tired, the weights were getting to him pretty bad since he had worn them all day. Yo, kid, hurry home and don't think of taking those weights off, you should only take them off when you shower and change. Got it? Kyuubi practically yelled at him. Yeah, fine, I got it. With that Naruto headed to his apartment at a better pace. When he got to his apartment he got ready for bed. After he was done he heard the voice of his new teacher. It's time I gave you something. Like what? He asked. I'm going to improve your senses. Okay, I guess, is all Naruto said as pain shot through his eyes, ears, and nose. As the pain stopped he noticed the change immediately. When he looked in a mirror he saw his pupils elongated into slits and his ears seemed to sharpen at the top. If you play D&D it would look like a half-elf's ears. And now since I did that to your eyes you can activate a new eye ability that lets you see your opponent's attacks better, like the Uchiha's Sharingan, only it can't copy ninjutsu or genjutsu, but you will be able to copy taijutsu. How do I get it to work? Just pour chakra into your eyes and it should activate. The more chakra you put in the better it works. There is a limit to how much chakra you use. It will become more and more as you use it. I suggest that you have it activated all day every day so it improves faster. Naruto did as he was told and the world seemed to slow down. When he looked in the mirror he saw red eyes where his blue ones should be. Thanks Kyuubi-sensei. Naruto deactivated his eyes and lay down to go to bed and he promptly fell asleep. Okay, here's how it works. Since we can communicate I'll be teaching you while you sleep so that way you can train during the day and learn at night. Okay? Asked Kyuubi. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Okay, your night teaching will go as followed. I will work on your will, then I will teach you. With a good will you will be able to see through genjutsu and outlast most people in interrogations. Kyuubi said matter-of-factly. And then their night training started and ended when Naruto woke up. He cooked himself some breakfast and got ready to go. When he was ready he glanced about the room and grabbed his book and sunglasses. He promptly put them on and started reading his book as he headed out. He got to his training area and put his book away and looked around. He was the only one there, so he activated his new eyes from behind his glasses. The world seemed to slow down and then he started his training. He decided that instead of running around just his training area he was going to run around the entirety of Konoha. After about halfway around Konoha Kakashi appeared in front of Naruto and he looked quite upset. What are you doing? We have a meeting, remember? Kakashi said, obviously irritated. I was getting some training in before our meeting actually started. I didn't expect you to be on time today. He said, a little annoyed. Kakashi looked a little proud that his student took the initiative to train while he waited. Well, come on, we're gonna go train at our usual spot. Naruto kept up with his desired training and ran to the training spot followed by Kakashi. Naruto looks worn out and he's running a little sluggish. And what's with his ears? Thought Kakashi. Team 10. Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru were waiting for Asuma. Choji's was eating a bag of potato chips, Shikamaru was playing a game of shogi by himself, and Ino was impatiently waiting and shifting uncontrollably. Why do you do that? It is so troublesome and distracting, replied Shikamaru, not looking up from his game. Ino looked at him indignantly. He looked up to see a raging Ino. Well, if you wouldn't play those stupid old man games and do something with me I wouldn't. And you, if you wouldn't stuff your face all the time it would be a hell of a lot better. Ino yelled out. Both boys cringed when they heard Ino and saw the murderous intent. Shikamaru sighed and said, Ino, you're being troublesome. And he immediately regretted those words because Ino ran and grabbed his shogi board and broke it over his head and started strangling him. Asuma came up and looked at the two. Shikamaru was turning blue and Ino turned completely evil. Asuma looked over at Choji and then Choji said something that changed Ino. I don't think guys will like you if you do things like this. Ino slowly turned her head around ever so slowly and the look on her face turned the two guys white as hell. She then creaked a smile, an evil you will pay smile. And then she released Shikamaru, who already looked dead. She ran at Choji and he closed his eyes waiting for pain. What he felt was a million times worse. He couldn't feel his precious snacks. When he opened his eyes he saw her sitting down and was eating his chips. When he went to get them back she smacked his hand away. After a few attempts to free his chips he gave up and sat next to Shikamaru. Ino was eating Choji's chips when she glared at Asuma. He quivered under her gaze. I should start before I'm the next target. Well, I guess you guys should know I recommended you for the Chunin exams. Asuma said, and Ino had stopped eating Choji's chips and had her mouth hung open. How troublesome, thought Shikamaru. And Choji also looked a little shocked. I should think of something to get them into it. I wouldn't want Kakashi to throw this in my face. Asuma thought. Aha, perfect. And also you all should know that all the other rookies will be participating, especially Sasuke. Asuma said proudly as he saw Ino's face change into determination. Also you have to take the test as a team, so might I recommend a team leader. Alright, this is my chance to show up, forehead girl, and get Sasuke-kun. And you two better not ruin this for me. Ino grabbed the 3 slips out of Asuma's hand and grabbed her teammates and rushed off to train. Shikamaru muttered something that sounded awfully like troublesome. Team 8. Kurenai was waiting for her team to arrive. Hinata, Kiba, and Shino were walking to their team's training area. To be more specific, Hinata and Shino were walking, Kiba and Akamaru were running every which way chasing each other. When they arrived at the training area they saw their sensei leaning on a tree waiting for them. Kurenai looked up as her team arrived. Hinata and Shino were walking casually while Kiba and Akamaru were jumping tree to tree frantically. Hello, I have something to tell you guys. Kurenai said as she pulled out 3 slips of paper and handed them to the 3 genin. These are recommendations for the Chunin exams, she said as she looked at her students' reactions. Kiba was obviously excited. Hinata was pretty fearful and Shino was, well, she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Anyo, are we ready for this? Hinata said, obviously worried about the exams. Kurenai was gonna say something until Shino broke his usual quietness. I'm sure that Kurenai-sensei wouldn't nominate us unless she was sure we were ready, he said as he put his paper in a pocket. Of course we're ready, this will be awesome, Akamaru, and I will show everyone that we are the best. Kiba said as Akamaru barked in agreement. Come on Shino, let's go train. When will it be, Kurenai-sensei? It will be in 6 days. Kurenai couldn't finish as Kiba ran out after she said when it was. Shino started to follow Kiba, and Hinata just stayed still, almost on the verge of tears. Kurenai sighed and said, Hinata-chan, you should train also. I don't think they will let you back down. Hinata just nodded and walked to the training post and started attacking it with an open fist. I'm sorry Hinata-chan, I have to go. If you see Kiba and Shino again, tell them it's free training for the rest of the time and to meet at the academy. Hinata just nodded, obviously feeling left out. Kurenai jumped into the trees and just vanished. Team 7. I wonder where Kakashi-sensei is. He said that he was going to get Naruto so we can all train together. Sakura said. Sasuke looked extremely annoyed. That Dobi is wasting my time. Kakashi and I could have been working on that jutsu Kakashi's been teaching me, he said in a cold, I'm gonna kill you tone. Hey Sasuke-kun, why don't you train on teamwork with me and Naruto? If we all are going to go to the Chunin exams we should try and work together, she said in a sing-song voice. I don't need teamwork, you two will just end up slowing me down, he said in his cold tone. Just then Naruto came into view, followed by Kakashi. Naruto had heard what Sasuke had just said, but didn't want to say anything, and although he was very tired from his run he hid it quite nicely. It was as if it was the easiest thing in the world. Kakashi pulled out a slip of paper and handed it to Naruto. I've recommended you for the Chunin exams, it's your choice if you want to go or not. It's in 6 days, so you should all train as hard as you can, he said. And also every team has a captain, we haven't chosen one yet, so we should decide that now. Kakashi looked around. Sakura will say Sasuke, Naruto will say himself, and Sasuke will say himself. With 2 votes I'll just give it to Sasuke. I think Sasuke-kun should be it since he's the strongest, Sakura said while blushing. Yeah, and Naruto better not disagree with that. Inner Sakura screamed. It should obviously be me, Sasuke said in a cold tone. Kakashi was going to announce that Sasuke would be their team leader, but Naruto spoke first. It should be Sakura, he said indifferently. Sakura's the smartest and that's what we need over power. Sakura shook her head at this and said, no, Sasuke-kun is much smarter than I. Hell yeah, and don't forget it. Naruto just shrugged. Well, it's 2-1. So when I'm not around, Sasuke is in charge. Got it? Everyone nodded. Good, now we're going to start training. Naruto, you should work on your chakra control. And Sakura, you should work on your reserve. Sasuke and I will be working on a new jutsu. With that, Kakashi left with Sasuke. Sakura started the tree climbing exercise and Naruto was going to start also, but the Kyuubi stopped him. I know a better method of gaining better control and you'll get a new jutsu also. Alright, if it will help. Naruto said in his head. Sakura looked at him confused, but brushed it off and started working again. What you need to do is concentrate chakra to your hand and put as much as you can and then compress it. It'll create a fire in your hand and you'll only be able to sustain it as long as you can maintain control over it. The fire will fluctuate, so that's where your control will need to come from. It's quite difficult, but if you can manage it, you'll never have problems with control again. Also, since it consumes a lot more chakra than that petty tree climbing exercise, your reserves will start to grow more. Kyuubi stated in a teacher tone. Thanks, but why are you helping me anyways? It doesn't make sense. I thought you hated and wanted to destroy Konoha and now you're helping one of its residents. I'll be honest, kid, I like you. You don't let anyone see that they're hurting you and you're willing to protect them even though they hate you. And furthermore, if I'm going to be stuck in you for all eternity, you're gonna need to be strong. I don't want people thinking I'm weak because my container is weak. Now then, let's stop this talking and get started. Naruto jumped out of sight so Sakura wouldn't see his new training. And then Naruto started his chakra control and found it was a hell of a lot harder than Kyuubi described. After a few hours, Naruto was able to maintain the fire for 20 seconds. When he heard people come to the practice area, he jumped down and saw Sakura was passed out due to exhaustion. Kakashi and Sasuke arrived at the training area just in time to see Naruto land gracefully on the ground. They looked over to see Sakura passed out by a tree and decided it was due to exhaustion. Hey Dobi, still can't stick to the tree, I see. Sasuke said with a smirk. Kakashi walked over to Sakura and woke her up. Okay kid, this guy pisses even me off, so show him up. I'd say you could just merely walk up the tree without the run like the girl was doing. Okay, sounds good, Naruto thought. Actually Sasuke, I think I have improved greatly, I haven't fallen once. Naruto said with a smirk. It's not a lie. Ha, I bet I can get higher than you, still. Sasuke gloated all high and mightily. Okay, prove it, pick a tree and we'll see who can get higher. I'll let you go first so you can set the bar. Naruto said, holding in the pleasure of watching Sasuke crumble. Sasuke chose a tree that you could see all the way to the top of. He pulled out a kunai and gathered chakra to his feet and ran as fast as he could to the tree and started going up it. He made it 3/4 the way up before he scratched the tree and started to fall, but recomposed himself and landed on his feet. Let's see you beat that, Sasuke said as he tossed his kunai at Naruto. Naruto caught it and walked his way to the tree. Aren't you even going to try? You haven't even gathered chakra. Sasuke let out a small laugh that didn't last long as Naruto got to the tree and started walking up it effortlessly. Kakashi had already awakened Sakura and they were watching this duel of egos. All three of their jaws dropped at Naruto's effortless action. He got to the point that Sasuke had left his slash and he looked down to see if Sasuke was still watching. After he was sure Sasuke was watching, he took a step above his mark and got closer to the tree. Instead of a slash, Naruto had written his name, and instead of hopping down he continued to the top of the tree. When he reached the top, he stuck the kunai in the tree, so the kunai was now the highest point of the tree. Naruto hopped down and seeing that his comrades were speechless, he spoke first. If you want your kunai back, you'll have to go and get it. Sasuke looked at Naruto and then back at the kunai, and then he said something. TCH, so you've gained a little chakra control. It doesn't mean you're stronger than me, and I'll prove it. Let's go, Sasuke said as he got in a fighting position. Kakashi and Sakura had come to their senses and were gonna stop this, but Naruto said something before they could. I'm not gonna fight you since there isn't anything to gain out of it. Now I'm hungry. Is our training session over? Naruto asked solemnly. Kakashi finally said something. Yeah, I guess you guys can go. We won't have training for the rest of the week, so you guys can relax and decide if you're going to take the exam or not. That was all Naruto needed, and he started walking away. When he was out of sight, Sasuke walked up to the tree and molded chakra to his feet and tried climbing the same way Naruto did. His foot just slid down as he tried to put his other foot up. Your chakra control isn't good enough yet. Sakura, see if you can do it. Kakashi said. Sakura did as she was told and she fared better than Sasuke, but when she went for a fifth step she slid down. I see, so now Naruto has the better chakra control of the group, he said and walked away in deep thought. Sakura looked ashamed because she was no longer the best at something in the group. Sasuke was pissed that Naruto had shown him up. With Naruto. Naruto was walking to the bookstore because he just finished his book, The Forge. He was given cold stares all the way there. When he got there he looked around until he found a book about seals. He grabbed it and went and paid for it. He started reading it and headed for Ichiraku for his lunch. When he got there he sat down and ordered a miso ramen and continued to read. What are you reading? Ayame asked in a cutesy voice. Naruto looked up from his book and realized both the old man and Ayame were looking at him. It's a book on different kind of seals and how to make them. I figured it would be a good idea to learn these things, he said as he put the book on the counter and gave his full attention to Ayame and the old man. You weren't here last night, we thought something happened to you. You never miss a meal, the old man said as he placed Naruto's ramen in front of him. My new sensei told me that I need to eat more than ramen all the time, so now he only lets me eat it for lunch, Naruto said as he grabbed some chopsticks. You have a new sensei? I thought once you get a Junin sensei he or she becomes your sensei until you get promoted. Ayame asked a little confused. Yeah, that's true, so I still have Kakashi as my official sensei, but I found someone better that's willing to help out more than Kakashi ever has, Naruto said casually as he started eating. I see, well that's good for you. Most people aren't able to find a suitable sensei, they just get stuck with what's given to them and then everyone on the team is just miserable, the Hokage said, startling the three out of their conversation. I'll have a pork ramen please, he said. Hi Hokage-sama, the old man said, then turned around and started working on the Hokage's ramen. Hokage-sama, it's a rarity to see you here, Ayame said, surprised. Ah well, it was boring being cramped in that office of mine all day, so I decided to come out for lunch, the Hokage said as the old man finished making his ramen. So Naruto, who is this new sensei of yours? The Hokage asked, interested in this sensei he received. Naruto finished his bowl of ramen and ordered another. He told me not to tell anyone or he would get in trouble for taking on a pupil without authorization, Naruto lied. Thank God Kyuubi-sensei's been teaching me, or I would not have never been able to come up with that. The Hokage looked at him for a second before he decided he was right. Well, that's true, so as long as you don't interrupt his actual duties there shouldn't be a problem, Hokage said, then realized something else to ask. I also heard from Kakashi that you're able to walk up a tree easily now. It was meant to be a statement, but sounded like a question. Yeah, my new sensei taught me better chakra control, something Kakashi didn't go into full detail on, Naruto said as the Konohamaru Corps came up to them. Hey Konohamaru, what are you here for? Naruto Ni-chan, thanks for helping me out yesterday, Konohamaru said as he, Udon, and Moegi bowed. Hey, it was no problem, but we didn't get to finish what we were doing yesterday, Naruto said and then looked at the Hokage. Hey Hokage-sama, why weren't we taught better chakra control in the academy? Well, we didn't want to push you with both academics and stuff like that. The academy is to learn the basics and afterwards your Junin instructor will teach you more of the advanced things, the Hokage said all-knowingly. Is it against the rules to teach that kind of stuff though? Naruto asked. The Hokage caught on to what Naruto was really asking and looked at the three ninja hopefuls and back at Naruto and shook his head. It's not against any rules to be trained outside of the academy, actually it would probably increase their chances for succeeding in the Genin test. Although I wouldn't suggest teaching Junin ranked moves like the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to academy students. Naruto caught the hint. He finished up his ramen, paid for it, and got up. Alright, come on Konohamaru Corps, I have something to show you. Bye Hokage-sama, Ramen Man, and Ayame-chan. Ayame blushed a little as Naruto waved and ran off with Konohamaru and the others. Naruto and the Konohamaru Corps arrived in the forest to start playing ninja. Okay guys, here's what we're going to do today. I'm gonna teach you to climb a tree without your hands, Naruto said and looked at their awe-stricken faces. Leader, can you really do that? Moegi asked with stars all over her eyes. Of course I wouldn't tell you I'd teach you something I couldn't do. Here, watch me do it first, okay? They all nodded and Naruto walked over to a tree and started to walk up it to about a tenth of the way up. He looked at the look on their faces and was proud. See, now all you have to do is concentrate chakra to your feet and make sure it's enough to stick, but not too much where you get pushed off. Now do you have any kunai? They all shook their heads. Then Naruto heard someone come up from behind him and 3 kunai shot out of the tree and stuck to the ground in front of the 3 young ones. Who's there? Naruto yelled. You shouldn't worry about who I am, but what I want. A rain nin stepped out into view. Naruto gave the look as if to continue. I want the scroll of forbidden jutsus and I've heard that you've gotten it once before, so you should be able to get it again, right? What makes you think that I'll help you out, Naruto asked. I'm beyond your level, you don't have a chance, plus I have those 3 as targets. The rain nin said as he pointed at Konohamaru and the others. Well, what do you want from the scroll? Naruto asked cynically. Isn't it obvious I want the power from within it? Once I have it I'll be the most powerful ninja of all time. The rain nin said confidently. Naruto hummed as if contemplating things. I'm sorry, but I won't help you. I'm sorry you feel the way you do. I thought you were different from Mizuki-sensei. He said. The rain nin's features says that he was shocked at Naruto's response. The rain nin's face showed many signs of shock. He couldn't believe that Naruto had just said that, and he was surprised that Naruto might know who it was. The rain nin recomposed himself and started questioning Naruto to see if what he thought was true. What do you mean by that? The rain nin spoke incredulously. When you saved me from Mizuki-sensei, I had assumed it was to save me, not try and get the scroll for yourself. Naruto said in a cold demeanor. The rain nin now knew his suspicions were correct and didn't know what to do to defuse this situation. He did the first thing that came to mind. He released the henge. He looked at the 3 young ones and saw that their faces showed signs of betrayal. Iruka looked downhearted. How did this get so complicated? Now I'll probably never get any of their trust back. He looked at Naruto again, and if the sunglasses weren't in the way he would probably see fury in his eyes. He thought some more and could not think of any way to get Naruto to trust him besides become Naruto's prisoner and go see the Hokage, but that wouldn't look too good. The only thing left was to try to reason with Naruto. Naruto, you see, there is a reasonable explanation for this. Iruka pleaded. Naruto thought for a second and motioned for Iruka to continue. You see, I was supposed to test you to see if you were ready for the Chunin exams as well as the other 8 newly appointed genin. Iruka pleaded. Naruto was going to say something, but a voice from within stopped him. He's telling the truth, Kyuubi told him matter-of-factly. How can you be so sure? Naruto asked, uncertain. His heart rate when someone lies, their heart beats faster, thus proving that he is in fact not lying. Kyuubi said. Naruto took this into thought for a second and decided to test it. Focusing on hearing, he started to hear Iruka's heart. Iruka-sensei, I want you to prove to me that you aren't lying. Iruka looked a little confused at Naruto's statement. Naruto continued. I want you to tell me that I hate ramen. Iruka was completely thrown off at Naruto's request, but if it was to prove he wasn't lying. Naruto, you do not like ramen. Iruka said, confusion evident in his voice. Naruto heard Iruka's heart quicken its pace and then slowed down again. You were right, Kyuubi, that's pretty cool. Naruto said to Kyuubi. It can be pretty useful when you think about it. Kyuubi said. So what did this test tell you? Naruto asked. Iruka sighed in relief, realizing that Naruto believed him, which made him very happy. He looked over at the 3 little ones and didn't like what he saw. They still didn't believe him. This saddened him a bit. Well, actually it showed me that you are indeed ready for the Chunin exams, but how did you know it was me? Iruka asked. Naruto looked at the ground where the 3 kunai were and picked them all up and handed one to each of the little ones. Well, actually it was your smell. Naruto had said. Iruka looked dumbfounded. Okay guys, and Moegi. Generate chakra to your feet and try the tree climbing exercise. Naruto said casually. He watched them mold chakra to their feet and run towards the trees they chose. Konohamaru, that is a big name, had taken 2 steps and had fallen right on his butt. Udon had taken 5 steps before he fell, but he recomposed himself and landed on his feet, and Moegi had gotten extremely higher. She had gotten to where Naruto had showed them and due to lack of chakra had fallen. From the distance Moegi had gotten up to, it looked like she could get hurt, so Naruto jumped over to her tree and caught her before she hit the ground and hurt herself. You okay? He asked a blushing Moegi. Yes. Thank you Naruto ni-chan. The blushing Moegi said. Naruto put Moegi down and looked at the marks they had made on the tree. Moegi was the highest while Udon's mark was about 9 feet off the ground and Konohamaru's was 4 feet off the ground. At least he got higher than me on my first try, thought Naruto. Naruto looked at Iruka and it looked like he was contemplating something. So what do you think for their first try? Naruto asked Iruka. Iruka looked at Naruto, then the 3 little ones, and then the marks. Well, considering their age, I'd have to say they did really good. Iruka said. They are going to have to increase their chakra supply in order to get higher, but I'm pretty sure out of everyone else their age I'd say they could do it. After Iruka said that, they heard someone scoff at that comment. When they turned around they saw 2 people standing there. One was an adult male and the other was a young female no older than 7. The man wore a cream-colored yukata and had long black hair, and the young girl wore a faded purple ninja training outfit and she had long black hair. Have you guessed yet? The thing that really set them apart from others had to be their eyes. They were the color of lavender, but only if you were close, otherwise they would look like they were pure white. The one that scoffed was the male. If you think those children will be better than my daughter, then you are sadly mistaken. Hiyashi said nonchalantly. Iruka had fear written all over his face. Hiyashi took note of this and when he looked at Naruto he didn't get such a reaction. The boy stood there indifferently. Hiyashi looked at the kids and took note that they were fairly angered. Hey weird eyes, you can't know your daughter is better than us. Konohamaru said angrily. Iruka ran over and clasped a hand over the infuriated 8-year-old. Iruka was going to ask for his apologies, but Hiyashi just waved it off as if it were nothing. The Hyugas are the best clan in Konoha. Our children are taught chakra control techniques at an early age so they can master Jyuken at a young age. Hiyashi said casually. So Hanabi here is well adept at things such as tree climbing and such. He said with pride. Bullshit. Konohamaru yelled out. I say she is worse than me, you just want to increase your ego. Konohamaru said confidently. Hanabi probably has the best chakra control of all of you. Hiyashi said just as confidently as Konohamaru. Hey little kid, here's a chance to test yourself. Kyuubi told Naruto. I guess so. You think I can beat her? Naruto asked. I'd say you have a really good chance. Your control is probably at that of a rookie Junin. Kyuubi said. If you think that, then a little wager wouldn't bother you, would it? Naruto asked. Iruka and Hiyashi were both quite shocked that Naruto had just proposed a bet with a Hyuga. Fine, if that is what you want. What are your terms? Hiyashi asked, disbelief evident in his voice. I will be the one to participate for my team. And if I win, then little Hanabi can help Konohamaru and the rest with their control, and who knows, maybe they could become friends. Naruto suggested. Hey fine, and if Hanabi wins you will be her fighting post to test her Jyuken. Do we have an agreement? Hiyashi asked. Sure, sounds fine. Now then, I guess since you issued the challenge you get to pick the contest. Naruto said. Ho ho ho. This sounds interesting. I've never seen a challenge of chakra control before. The Hokage said as he stepped out into the open. All eyes were on him as he came into view. It would seem there is quite an audience here to see this. The Hokage said as he gestured something towards the trees. Just then Kakashi, Sasuke, and Ebisu jumped out of the trees. Well then I guess you guys should start this contest. The Hokage suggested. Hey, okay, the contest will be quite simple. All you have to do is walk up 2 steps and jump to another tree and then walk 2 more steps and continue until you lose control, and if you make it to the top do it over just going downwards and keep up until you fall. Understand? Hiyashi explained. Naruto nodded and said, ladies first. After Naruto said that, Hanabi walked up to the tree and gathered chakra and took 2 steps on the tree and then jumped to another tree. She proceeded up the tree in the same manner until she made it to the top, and then she turned around and started heading down the same way. Everyone stared in awe at what a young girl was doing except Hiyashi and Naruto. Hanabi made it to the bottom of the tree and she once again turned and took 2 steps. When she jumped she didn't gather enough chakra and didn't stick and she fell. She would have landed on her butt if Konohamaru hadn't caught her the same way Naruto had caught Moegi. Konohamaru put the now blushing Hanabi on her feet and Hiyashi ahemed and spoke. Hanabi made it to the top, back down, and 2 steps. It's your turn, let us see if you can do any better. Hiyashi said. 3 people there had actually guessed Hiyoshi's intentions with this bet, and Naruto himself was quite skeptical about this wager as well. The 3 that guessed his intentions were the Hokage, Kakashi, and Ebisu. It had been clear when Kyuubi was sealed. Hiyoshi was quite skeptical that any ninja had the ability to handle a Yukai of such a high caliber. The only people who he told, however, were only the higher level ninjas and the Hokage, as to not cause a panic. This was his chance to see how well the kid handled his chakra, as it could be dangerous if he wasn't in complete control. Hiyoshi was one of the ones who had actually accepted Naruto for what he was, a hero. No one else has such a burden as him, and there has been no problems with him, so there was no reason to be mean to Naruto. Granted, he hadn't told Hinata or Hanabi, but at least no hate for the boy was transferred onto them like the rest of the kids. Naruto was skeptical about this whole bet because even though Hiyoshi had made his side of the bet so cruel, Naruto could not sense any hate from Hiyoshi. Instead, he only felt kindness, which was rare from any adult. He really didn't understand the whole thing to its fullest like he wanted, but he wasn't one to complain about someone being kind to him. He walked up to the tree. When he got there, he heard 2 more sets of feet land into the area. He turned to look at the newcomers. It was Kurenai and Asuma. "Hey Kakashi, what's the big idea? We had plans, are you skipping out on us?" Kurenai practically yelled. Kakashi looked at Kurenai and Asuma, then back at Naruto, and gave his reply. "I'm not skipping out, it's just this came up and I wanted to see how it would turn out," Kakashi said unemotionally. Kurenai and Asuma looked around and realized they had interrupted something pretty important if the Hokage was there. Then they looked to see what was the center of attention, and when they realized it had something to do with Naruto, they were quite interested. "Sorry Naruto, please continue. Remember up, down, and just land the next jump and you win," Kakashi added. Naruto nodded and looked back at the tree and started walking up it. He got 2 steps and jumped as he was supposed to. He adjusted to land as he was supposed to, and as he touched the tree he took 2 more steps. After Naruto made his first jump, everyone let out the breath they didn't know they were holding, everyone except Hanabi and Sasuke. Sasuke was infuriated that the Dobi could do something that he probably couldn't, and it was getting on his nerves. Hanabi was wondering why her father was so intent with how Naruto was doing, but she pushed on grounds that he was worried about losing. Naruto continued up the tree as he was supposed to. When he got to the top, he turned and he just stood there looking down. When everyone saw this, they were confused and wondered why he stopped. "Am I supposed to see doubles of everything?" asked Naruto. "No, someone must be performing a genjutsu on you. Look for someone who is still holding a seal," Kyuubi said to Naruto. Naruto did as he was told and looked at all the people down on the ground. As best as he could tell from the double people, no one was holding a seal. He would have just continued if he could tell where to step and not. But that's not the case. The genjutsu was just too confusing, so he just stood there looking around in the trees trying to find the culprit of his vision dilemma. Everyone was very confused that Naruto had stopped since he was doing very well. When they saw him looking around in the trees, they were then worried a little. Hiyoshi got what Naruto was doing and activated his Byakugan and took a look at Naruto, and true to his suspicions, there was a genjutsu placed on him. But that's not all he noticed. Naruto himself was gathering chakra to his eyes. He decided to find out later about Naruto's chakra. First things first, the genjutsu. "Hokage-sama," Hiyoshi whispered, hardly able to be heard. All the Junins and the Hokage looked at Hiyoshi. There has been a genjutsu placed on Naruto. That made all the Junin tentative. They started looking around the place, and Hiyoshi looked further until he found the offender. He deactivated his eyes, and when everyone looked at him, they all had the same thing written on their face: confusion. Then he spoke again. "Naruto, can you continue?" Hiyoshi asked. All the Junins there looked shocked. The Hokage understood what it was, and he had to hope Naruto understood. Naruto, still in the tree, heard Hiyoshi announce it was a genjutsu. Now Hiyoshi was asking if he could continue. "Why did he say that if he knows I'm being affected by genjutsu?" Naruto asked Kyuubi. "He wants to prove something to the offender. It's probably someone who thinks they can get good favors for messing you up," Kyuubi said. "But still, why isn't he stopping them from the genjutsu? Instead he's letting me." "Oh, I see. Thanks Kyuubi," Naruto said, and tried to look at the real Hiyoshi and said, "Hey, yeah, I was just admiring the sights from up here." Of course Naruto lied. Hiyoshi and the Hokage both had a smug smile on their face, and the other Junin had no choice but to trust their judgment. Of course they were still a little worried about Naruto completing this, As it is, it was hard enough, and now he has a genjutsu placed on him. What will you do, Naruto? Was on every Junin's, Hiyashi, and the Hokage's mind as well as Naruto's. Naruto looked at the tree he was standing on and took his 2 steps. That was the easy part. The tree jumping would be a million times harder. Naruto looked at the tree, which of course looked like 2 trees, and if he were to jump and miss he would lose the bet. In situations like this your eyes can hurt you. You should feel for the tree. Kyuubi commented in his head. And how do you suppose I do that? Naruto asked. I guess I can give you something else. I was gonna give it to you later, but now is a good time. Now this is gonna hurt a bit, hold it in or they might get suspicious. Kyuubi said. And true to Kyuubi's word, it hurt a lot. Naruto winced as pain filled his entire body and then nothing. Now then, this might be difficult, but you're gonna need to be a quick study. You need to feel your surroundings, just concentrate on everything and you'll see true. Naruto didn't quite get what the hell Kyuubi was talking about, but attempted it anyway. As his focus went to the entire area, his vision changed and he grew extremely nauseous for a couple of seconds. As he started feeling better, he got even more confused as he could see anywhere he wanted and it was red, yet no matter where he looked by feeling, he could still see in front of him what he would normally see. When he closed his eyes he could still see what he was feeling. Okay, that is just awesome. Naruto thought to Kyuubi and got a knowing laugh in return. This happened in like a minute. Naruto opened his eyes and focused in front of him. Now instead of the 2 trees he saw before, there were 3 trees, except one tree was red and the others were regular. In the crowd below everyone was wondering why he had just stopped. The Junins chalked it up to the effects of the genjutsu. Naruto decided that the red one was real and the others were fake, so it was a leap of faith. Naruto jumped. The Junins immediately held their breath and then they released it as they saw he made it. Hiyashi activated his Byakugan just to see if the genjutsu was still active. He saw that it was and he looked at the Hokage, who had the look of, "Is it?" on his face. Hiyashi just nodded and they both looked back at Naruto and saw him proceeding in the same manner he was before. Naruto was feeling good about himself. He was back on track. The only bad thing was that his knee pads kept digging into his legs. Damn, my legs are hurting. Naruto said. Didn't you read about a seal that increases the weight of an object in that book you bought? Kyuubi asked. Naruto was pretty sure he had. Only one thing to do was look. He pulled out his book and scanned through it looking for the seal while still going down the tree without missing a beat thanks to his new ability. Granted, it was a little frustrating with the genjutsu, but he worked around that. The people on the ground had their eyes wide and jaws hung as Naruto was skimming a book while walking down a tree and jumping as he was supposed to. Everyone who knew him stared at Kakashi as if asking him for an explanation. Kakashi looked at the stairs and just shrugged. All their stares broke when they heard Naruto. Aha, there is one for what I need. Naruto yelled. Everyone but Sasuke's sweat dropped. Sasuke was pissed beyond belief. Here was Adobe doing something he should be able to do and can't. Naruto made it to the bottom still reading his book as he turned around and started back up, completely forgetting this wasn't a normal day activity. He got the first jump and kept going. Everyone visibly sweat dropped as they realized Naruto forgot that all he needed to do was accomplish the first jump back up. Hiyashi decided it was time to end this. Alright Naruto, you don't need to humiliate my daughter as well. Hiyashi said, his tone betraying his words. Naruto looked confused. Huh, how am I humiliating your daughter? Naruto asked dumbly, then he realized what he was doing. Oh sorry, I was caught up reading something. Naruto then folded the top corner of the page he was on and put it in his pouch. Naruto released his chakra and landed on the ground as graceful as a cat. So I guess Hanabi will help Konohamaru and his group as we agreed upon? Naruto asked. Hiyashi nodded and said, yes, but first a few things. First I want to apologize. Naruto looked confused and asked. Apologize for what? Naruto asked. Naruto wasn't the only one confused because everyone was confused as to why Hiyashi was to apologize. Apologize for a member of my clan's unsportsmanlike behavior. I assure you he will be reprimanded immediately. Then Hiyashi glared into the trees, and just as he glared, Naruto's vision returned to normal, so he stopped his feeling, and another Hyuga jumped into the group kneeling right in front of Hiyashi. Explain yourself. Hiyashi practically growled. What made you risk the Hyuga honor by using a genjutsu on Naruto? All the kids in Iruka except Naruto were shocked at hearing that Naruto had won even with genjutsu against him. Sasuke scowled and Hanabi hung her head low. Neither of these actions were overlooked by Hiashi. I couldn't let the Hyuga name be tarnished by someone like him. The unnamed Hyuga said as he gave a disgusted look at Naruto. It was the same look the rest of the villagers gave Naruto. Naruto just looked away from the unnamed Hyuga. No one missed the look that the Hyuga gave Naruto. So you would rather make us look bad by cheating? Hiashi said. He didn't want to assault the man about the glare because of the kid's presence. No one would have known only as Hyuga. The unnamed Hyuga said. And what made you think I'd allow it? No, there is a worse matter at hand. You put a genjutsu on Naruto. Hiashi said. And? The unnamed Hyuga asked defiance in his voice. Hanabi lost. While her opponent was being influenced by a genjutsu. How do you think that makes her feel? Hiashi spat at the Hyuga. She wouldn't have lost had it not been for. The Hyuga never finished as he was knocked out by the Hokage. All the children looked at the Hokage with a questioning gaze. He will be dealt with by me as I. Hokage of Konoha had sponsored this contest and he interfered. Congratulations Naruto. With that the Hokage picked up the offending Hyuga and vanished with a puff of smoke. Seeing as the contest was over, the Junin decided it was time for their prior arrangements to be attended to and they too were gone in smoke. Iruka had yet to finish the test of all the rookie genins and decided he should get to it before it gets too late. Hiashi went over to Hanabi and Ebisu went over to Konohamaru. Naruto was heading over to the little kids and talked to them, but he was intercepted by Sasuke. Okay Dobi, where did you learn to get better chakra control? Sasuke asked, extremely annoyed. I decided it was time to get better, so I asked someone extremely strong to help me. Naruto said, getting annoyed by Sasuke bothering him. Sasuke grabbed Naruto by the vest and started questioning him. Okay Naruto, who is this person and where can I find him? If he was able to teach a Dobi like you in chakra control in such a short time, he can most definitely help me become strong enough to kill my brother. Sasuke said the last part in sort of a growl. Hey sorry Sasuke, I can't tell you who's been helping me, he told me not to tell anyone. And besides, you seem to have Kakashi's undivided attention, you shouldn't need any other help than his. Naruto said as he released himself from Sasuke. Fine. Sasuke huffed and jumped through the trees to another training area preparing for the Chunin exams. Naruto continued to the children where he heard Hiashi tell Hanabi something. Naruto would have won either way, so don't be upset. In all this you will be given a chance to interact more with kids your own age, which could help you more than training with me all the time. Hiashi reassured his daughter. Naruto made it to Konohamaru and the others. And Ebisu decided to say something finally. You shouldn't bother yourself training these guys. You should train your own skills for the Chunin exams, which is in less than a week. I'll take it where you left off. Ebisu had accepted Naruto after seeing a change in Konohamaru's attitude. Hiashi and Hanabi decided to come at that time. I agree with Ebisu-sensei, you should try and improve as much as possible. Hiashi said to Naruto and then turned to Ebisu. If you are going to train them instead of Naruto, then I entrust my daughter's teaching to you so she can learn alongside them, as per my arrangement with Naruto. Ebisu nodded as Hanabi walked to the group of kids to introduce herself properly. Hiashi then turned back to Naruto and said, you should get to training. And then he walked away. Naruto followed suit and went to his apartment. When Naruto got to his apartment, he decided it was time for some little modifications and started to work until the Kyuubi's voice came into play. I have something else to teach you, little kid. It's an alteration to your fire technique I taught you, just very much harder to do. I'm listening, Naruto said, giving his full attention to Kyuubi. Okay, same concept, concentrate to your hand, but instead of just compressing it you'll have to release it then compress it. The Kyuubi said, and then Naruto attempted it, and when he did, a surge of electricity came from his hand for a split second before it disappeared. Naruto was amazed. Since it's electricity instead of fire, it will fluctuate more rapidly, so control will be extremely difficult. Naruto just nodded his head, he was pretty much dumbfounded. He shook it off fairly quickly and went back to modifying. Day of the exam. It was the day of the exam. Everyone was training the whole time before the exam so they could be ready for whatever the exam threw at them. Sakura and Sasuke were waiting outside the academy for Naruto. Hey, I guess the Dobi got scared, Sasuke said as he started heading for the academy. Sakura stalled a second, she looked around once before she decided to follow Sasuke into the academy. Sakura and Sasuke were heading down the corridor of the second floor until they came up to a huge crowd outside of the supposed room 301. They looked at each other confirming that it was indeed a genjutsu and started walking to the crowd. They made it to the crowd just in time to see a boy in a green training outfit and a girl wearing a pink Chinese shirt and dark blue pants that go down to about mid-calf get knocked back into what seemed to be their other teammate. "If that's all you got, you might as well just quit this exam while you can," said one of the people who knocked the guy and girl back. The two people who got knocked back got up and the girl spoke. "Please let us through," the girl said, pleading to the boys who were blocking their path. "You should be thanking us, we are weeding out those who don't have a chance in this exam," one of the boys said. Sasuke and Sakura walked up to the front of the crowd where all this was happening. Sasuke spoke up first. "You will let us pass," Sasuke said arrogantly. "And you should remove the genjutsu." After he said those words, everyone there was murmuring things such as, "What does he mean?" Sasuke looked at Sakura as if telling her to continue. "Yes, this is the second floor, we are going to the third," Sakura said proudly. Just then the genjutsu released to reveal that it was indeed room 201 instead of 301. One of the boys smirked at their cleverness and said, "You merely saw through it," he said as he thrust his foot for a sidekick. Sasuke saw this and also did the same. As their feet drew closer, they saw a green blur, and the boy who got knocked back earlier was now holding both their legs as if it were nothing. Then he released their legs and sighed in relief. Sasuke looked at the boy and girl and saw that they were unharmed. The other member of their team, which could be identified as a Hyuga, decided there was something to say. "What happened to the plan? You were the one that said we shouldn't make ourselves known," Neji said. Lee looked over to Sakura and started heading over to her while Tenten was shaking her head and mumbling, "Oh no. Hello, I'm Rock Lee, let's go out. I'll protect you until I die," Lee said as he smiled and his tooth gave a ping. Sakura looked disgusted and said, "No way, you're lame," she said, still disgusted. Lee's head drooped as he walked over to the wall downhearted and started pounding his head into it. Neji looked over at Sasuke and called out, "Hey, what's your name?" Neji asked Sasuke. Sasuke's arrogant reply was, "If you want someone else's name, you should give yours first," Sasuke said as he was now totally facing Neji. "You're a rookie, right? How old are you?" Neji asked. "I'm not obliged to tell you anything," Sasuke said. Meanwhile, Tenten was scanning around the crowd looking for something, and she decided to just ask, "Where's your other teammate?" she asked. This caught everyone's attention and they also started looking, thinking he was just overlooked. Sasuke looked at her and was thinking for a second. He decided not to show, so we decided to do it by ourselves, Sasuke stated coolly. After Sasuke's statement, everyone stopped looking and started looking at the Uchiha as if he was crazy. "Hey, that'll show you. You can't participate in the exams unless you're in a team of 3. Neji stated calmly as if it was common knowledge. Sasuke and Sakura were struck by this information. Sasuke was growing pissed until he heard a voice come from behind him. "Then I guess it's a good thing that I decided to come then," Naruto said calmly. Everyone looked at the newcomer and were a little shocked. Naruto stood there wearing black boots, a pair of black pants, a dark red long-sleeve shirt, a sleeveless black jacket, and his fingerless gloves. His shirt's sleeves were rolled up to just under his elbow and he wore his weapons pouch mid-thigh, and red bandages went from underneath the boots to mid-calf. He had a piece of metal attached to each shoulder of the jacket, each glove, and the outside sides of each boot. He still wore sunglasses and he still used his forehead protector as a belt. Everyone seemed interested and some girls thought he was appealing. Naruto walked up to the group casually and stopped to assess the situation. "So where were you, Dobi?" Sasuke asked Naruto. Neji and Lee both took this chance to size up the newcomer. Naruto looked at Sasuke and then just walked past the group of gathered ninjas towards his destination. "Answer me," Sasuke yelled as he grabbed Naruto's arm. That was the worst thing the Uchiha could have done, because as he touched Naruto he was shocked enough to be stunned by the contact. "What the hell was that?" Sasuke asked, still stunned by the contact. "It was static electricity I gathered during my training this morning," Naruto calmly said as he continued on his path to his destination. Sakura and Sasuke decided it best to follow Naruto as to get there on time. "Hey Lee, let's get going," Tenten said. Lee looked at her and then back at Team 7 and gave his reply. "You guys go ahead, I want to test something." Lee said and started heading in the direction that Team 7 went. He got the balcony of a lobby and called out, "Hey, guy with the dark eyes." They all looked up to see the boy they saw earlier. Sasuke gave a look as if he was listening. He was still peeved with Naruto. Sakura was disgusted and Naruto wasn't even paying attention. "Will you fight me right here?" Lee asked. Naruto was now interested, so he turned around and looked at Lee just as he dropped to the ground. Sasuke looked confused. "A fight right now?" asked Sasuke. As he looked, Sakura's expression turned to confusion, and then he looked at Naruto, who looked unmoved. Hard to tell what's behind the sunglasses. He looked back at Lee. "Yes," Lee said. "I am Rock Lee," he said, and then pointed at Sasuke. "When you want to learn someone else's name, you give yours first, right?" "Uchiha Sasuke," Lee said. Sasuke's mood had calmed down a bit. "Hey, so you know?" Sasuke said, putting on his calm exterior. "I want to fight you. I want to test my techniques against the offspring of the genius ninja clan. Plus," Lee said and looked at Sakura, which made her shudder. Then he winked at her. Sakura flinched and then Lee blew a kiss at her. Sakura, being the drama queen she is, leaned as far back as she could to dodge it, which resulted in her hitting her head on the ground. "Hey, don't throw weird things, I barely escaped with my life," Sakura practically yelled. "You don't have to be so mean," Lee said, downhearted. "Challenging me knowing the Uchiha name, frankly you're a fool. You're about to learn what this name means, thick brows," Sasuke said as he got into a fighting stance. "Please," Lee said. "I'm lucky I already get to face the #1 rookie. And I'll prove myself, Guy-sensei." Lee entered his preferred stance and said, "I'll say this, you guys cannot beat me, because right now I'm the strongest Leaf Genin." He stopped my kick with his hand. That wasn't human. I don't know what kind of ninjutsu he used, but Sasuke thought, "Sounds fun, I'll do it," Sasuke said, happy that he can show off. Sakura looked over at a clock. "Sasuke, don't," Sakura exclaimed. "We only have 30 minutes to get to the meeting. I'll be done in 5 minutes," Sasuke said and lunged at Lee. Naruto smirked. "I get to test out my Kitsunegan. Oh yeah, kick-ass name. He's coming. Sorry Guy-sensei, I might need to break your rules. I made to use that move," Lee thought as Sasuke made it to right in front of Lee. Lee jumped up and announced his first move. "Konoha Senpu." Above, Sasuke yelled in his head. He ducked, just barely managing to dodge. When Lee hit the ground, he immediately followed through with another Konoha Senpu. "Damn it, I can't dodge. I have to block it," Sasuke thought as he put his arm up to block. "What?" Sasuke thought as Lee's attack went through Sasuke's defenses. Sasuke was knocked back due to the force of Lee's kick. "Sasuke-kun," Sakura yelled. "What's going on?" Sasuke thought. But he had that blocked. Sakura thought. He slipped through my guard. Was that ninjutsu or genjutsu? Sasuke thought. Naruto, who was just sitting back and watching with a smirk on his face. Basic taijutsu, thought Naruto. Sasuke staggered up and grinned. Hey, fine, this gives me a chance to practice it. Sasuke thought. Sakura at Sasuke with surprise on her face. What? No way, that's the Sharingan. When did he? Plus both eyes. Sakura thought. So that's the Sharingan? Lee thought. Now let's see how he does. Naruto thought, and then he looked at Sakura and frowned. Sakura looked at Sasuke with amazement. Wonder if she would look at me like that if I showed her my eyes. Naruto thought. Hey, she might, but are you willing to show her? I think you're hiding behind those glasses for a reason. Kyuubi said. If I have no choice, I'll show them. Naruto said, and Kyuubi just chuckled. Haha, Sasuke-kun is incredible. If this is the same advanced bloodline as Kakashi-sensei, then he can read thick brows moves. Sakura thought excitedly. Ninjutsu or genjutsu, it must be some kind of magic, I'll reveal it. Sasuke thought. Sasuke-kun is getting stronger and stronger. The Uchiha clan is great. Yeah, Sasuke-kun can't lose to this guy. Sakura thought. Sakura's face contorted from admiration to fear as Sasuke was kicked into the air by Lee. The Sharingan, Sakura thought. The Sharingan can't read it. This can't be. Sasuke thought. Lee got in a crouching position. Yes, my moves are neither ninjutsu nor genjutsu. Lee said, and then jumped up into the air and appeared parallel to the seemingly flying Sasuke. Konoha Kage Buyu. Lee called out. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock. Yes, my moves are simple taijutsu, Sasuke-kun. You may not believe it because it is so basic, but They say the Sharingan has the ability to reveal all forms of nin, gen, and taijutsu. It is true that by reading ninjutsu and genjutsu, which need chakra to be raised and seals to preformed, you get an advantage through the Sharingan, but taijutsu is a little different. Lee said. What do you mean? Sasuke asked. Even if you can read my movements with your eyes, your body does not have the speed to react to my taijutsu. Basically, even if you can see it, if your body can't move, then it's useless. Lee said as he released some bandages on his arm. Do you know that among strong people there are two types? One is the genius types, and the other is the hard-working types. The Sharingan that belongs to the Uchiha blood is a genius type, while I'm simply a hard-working type who has mastered taijutsu. You could say my ultimate taijutsu is the worst possible matchup for your Sharingan. And I'll prove it with this technique that hard work surpasses genius. Lee said. What's he planning? Seemingly regretting accepting this challenge. A pinwheel struck Lee's bandage. That's enough, Lee. A turtle yelled out. The pinwheel was secure and pulled Lee. Lee had regained his composure and landed gracefully. What's going on? Sasuke thought as he started free falling. What's with the turtle? Naruto asked Kyuubi. It's a summoned creature. They vary in size, strength and type. His is a turtle. Kyuubi said. Really, how do I get one? Naruto asked. You have to find someone who has access to the summoning scroll and sign it. Kyuubi said. Ah, okay. Naruto said. Sasuke-kun. Sakura yelled as she ran to save Sasuke from falling on the ground. She caught him and said, Are you alright, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. He's so shaken he didn't even try to protect himself from the fall. So you were watching? Lee asked the turtle. Lee, that technique is forbidden. The turtle spoke. I'm sorry, I just. Lee said, and the turtle glared at Lee. Lee then flinched. But I wasn't planning on using the other technique. Lee exclaimed. Sakura and Sakura looked over at the turtle wondering what was going on. You fool. The turtle yelled. You think you can get away with an excuse like that? You already know what it means for a ninja to reveal his special techniques. The turtle said. Yes. Lee said, head bowed. Damn, I lost to these weirdos? Sasuke thought. Are you prepared to pay? The turtle asked. Yes. Lee said. Then here comes Guy-sensei. The turtle said. Then there was a poof and smoke appeared on top of the turtle. When the smoke disappeared, a man that looked awfully similar to Lee stood posed in a very disturbing pose. Geez, you guys are the epitome of youth, Guy said as his tooth pinged. Www. He's got even thicker eyebrows, yelled Sakura. Sasuke muttered, super thick. Sakura then muttered, super faggy. Hey, stop insulting Guy-sensei, Lee yelled. Lee, Guy interrupted. Oh, yes, Lee said, but could not finish for Guy had hit Lee right across the cheek, knocking him back and drawing blood. You fool, Guy yelled. The other three had looks of shock covering their face. You are, Guy said, tears in his eyes. Sensei, Lee said, tears streaming down his face. Guy then grabbed Lee and embraced him. That's enough, Lee, you don't need to say it, Guy said as he was crying and embracing Lee. Sensei, Lee said. The three members of Team 7 all showed signs of disgust at the sight. I lost to him, Sasuke thought. Yes, this is what youth is all about, Guy said as his tears disappeared. Sensei, Lee said. It's alright, Lee, youth and mistakes go hand in hand, Guy said. You're too nice, Guy-sensei, Lee said. But you did start a fight and almost broke one of my rules. Your punishment will be done after the Chunin exams, Guy said. Yes, Guy-sensei, Lee said as he saluted. Stupid, Sakura said. Then Guy looked towards Team 7. Guy, he's looking this way, Sakura exclaimed. So these are Kakashi's students, Guy thought. You guys, how is Kakashi doing? Guy asked. You know Kakashi? Sasuke asked. He know him, Guy said. Sasuke looked confused. And then Sasuke blinked and Guy was gone. Guy appeared behind the team faster than Sasuke and Sakura could see. Naruto had been watching Guy and saw Guy move, but not even his Kitsunegan could see him perfectly. He's faster than my Kitsunegan can see, Naruto exclaimed in his head. You still have a ways to go. You'll naturally grow from now on. Remember, you can't improve your eyes anymore, you'll have to wait for them to naturally increase. Kyuubi said. People refer to us as eternal rivals, Guy said. shocking Sakura and Sasuke. This guy, Sasuke thought. 50 wins and 49 losses. I'm stronger than Kakashi. Guy continued. No way. Fast, his speed is above Kakashi's. Is he human? Sasuke questioned in his head. See, Guy-sensei is awesome. Lee yelled proudly. Damn it, Sasuke thought. I'm sorry about Lee, I swear to this face that it won't happen again. Guy said. Above Kakashi? Damn it. How can I become stronger if the strongest doesn't teach me? Sasuke thought. You guys and Lee should go to take your test now. Guy said as he pulled out a kunai and threw it at the pinwheel holding Lee in place. As Lee was adjusting his bandages he noticed that Lee's hands were all scarred up. Good luck Lee, Guy said as he jumped away. Yes, Lee said as he fixed the bandages. You know Sasuke-kun, I came here to test my abilities. I lied before. I'm not the strongest Leaf Genin. Moreover, the strongest is most likely on my team. I entered this to beat him, and you're also one of my targets. Be prepared during the exam, Lee said and then jumped up to the balcony. Sasuke made a fist with his hand and started to get very angry. Sakura noticed this and was about to comfort him, but Naruto decided to finally speak up and deactivate his Kitsunegan. It looks like your new Uchiha ability is useless, Naruto said calmly as he started walking to the stairs. Naruto! Sakura yelled out. Naruto stopped shy of the stairs. Goo, shut up, I'll beat him next time. Sasuke said. Hey, you just got your ass kicked, Naruto said, not even looking at him. Sasuke and Sakura were getting more and more pissed at Naruto. Stop it Naruto, Sakura yelled out. If you were paying attention you would have noticed his hands had dozens of scars. This means he's been training harder and longer than you. You need to work just as hard or you'll never beat him, Naruto stated calmly. Sasuke's eyes widened in realization and his hand relaxed a bit. Sasuke-kun, Sakura thought. Sasuke then gripped his hand. Sounds fun, Sasuke thought. PFT. This thing is getting fun, this Chunin exam. Let's go, Sasuke announced. They all then headed to the third floor to room 301. When they got to the hall they saw Kakashi leaning against the wall next to the door. So Sakura also came. So you guys are officially ready to take the test, Kakashi said looking up from his book. Why didn't you tell us that we needed to do this as a team, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. I didn't want any one of you to force another into taking this exam, Kakashi said. But you guys all came of your own free will, so go, my proud team, Kakashi said as he ushered the genin into the room. When they all entered they were shocked. The room was full of various people from many different villages. So many people are here, Sakura thought. Her daze however was short-lived as a blonde-haired girl jumped onto Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, Ino yelled as she clung to Sasuke. You were late, I was worried. I haven't seen you in a long time so I have been waiting in anticipation, Ino said. Naruto took this time to wander over to a wall and lean on it. Get away from Sasuke-kun, Ino pig, Sakura yelled. Ino looked over to Sakura. Aw Sakura, you here too? I see you have your big forehead as well, Ino said. Sakura got really pissed at that comment. What did you say? Sakura yelled, popping a few veins in her head. Just then Choji and Shikamaru walked up to the group. You guys are taking this stupid exam too? Shikamaru said while Choji was eating chips and Sakura and Ino were shouting insults at each other. Then Kiba's team approached the fray. Yahoo, I found you, Kiba yelled as him and his team approached. Naruto just stood against the wall. I wonder if anyone even knows I'm here, Naruto said in his mind. You look a lot different than you usually do, so probably they wouldn't recognize you, Kyuubi said. And so have it. Everyone from Team 8 and 10 were looking around. Kiba was the first to say anything. Where's the loudmouth? Kiba asked. Shino and Shikamaru stopped looking when they saw that he was standing against the wall. Of course they barely recognized him. He's right there, Sasuke said as he pointed at Naruto and used this chance to escape from Ino. Everyone that wasn't looking at Naruto looked at him, then, and they were all shocked. Shino didn't show anything on the outside, but was still shocked. Everyone else showed severe signs of shock. Hinata of course was blushing, except this time it was a lot more than usual. Ino was thinking that Naruto looked almost as good as Sasuke. Shikamaru and Choji were mildly interested, but interested nonetheless. Kiba was the most intrigued and he voiced his opinion. So the Dobi decided to change for the exam. This is a ninja exam, not a fashion show. Kiba said and started laughing. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, Kiba-kun didn't mean that. Hinata said in her shy and timid type of way. You don't seem worried about this exam, Kiba. Sasuke said. Ha, we did a lot of training, we won't lose to you. Kiba arrogantly said. Hey, you guys should be more quiet. A white-haired guy with glasses said. Henceforth known as Kabuto. You guys are the rookies straight out of the academy, right? Acting like schoolgirls, geez. This isn't a stroll in the park, you know. At this Hinata blushed a bit. Wonder what she just thought about. This however didn't go unnoticed by Naruto and her teammates. And who are you? Ino took it upon herself to ask. I'm Kabuto, but you shouldn't worry about who I am. Take a look behind you. Kabuto said. Everyone looked behind them except Naruto. They saw 3 rain nins looking as if they were ready to kill someone. Those are ninjas from Hidden Rain, they have short tempers. Kabuto said with a smirk. Everyone else showed signs of nervousness. Then Kabuto continued. Everyone is nervous about this exam. Quiet down before you cause a scene. Well, I can't blame you, you're clueless rookies. You remind me of how I used to be. Kabuto said. Kabuto, is this your second time? Sakura asked. No, this is my 7th time. This exam is held twice a year, so this is my 4th year. Kabuto said calmly. So you must know a lot about this exam then? Sakura asked. That's right. Kabuto said. Just for you I'll share some info. With these nin info cards. Everyone had a clueless expression, so Kabuto explained. These cards hold information about anything I've learned in the last 4 years. Right now they're blank, but when I add chakra. He said as he put chakra into the card and information appeared. This card shows how many people are participating this year. Do you have cards on individual people? Sasuke asked. Yes, I do, just give me any information about them and I'll look for them. Kabuto said. Rock Lee of Konoha and his teammates. Sasuke said. Oh, you have a name, that's good, let's see. Kabuto said and swung his hand over his deck of cards and pulled out 3 cards. Teams are organized together in his deck. And then he focused chakra into them. Let's see, they're a year older than you and this is their first time taking this test. Rock Lee made himself known last year as an excellent ninja. His taijutsu is outstanding, the rest isn't anything impressive. Tenten is one of the top kunoichi in Konoha, her weapon skill is quite impressive and her other skills are average. And the last of the team is Hyuga Neji. Hinata visibly paled and again only 3 people noticed. Hyuga must be related and it seems they're on bad terms. Naruto thought. Kabuto continued. He is last year's #1 rookie, excellent taijutsu, and as a member of the Hyuga clan possesses the Byakugan. Leaf, rain, sand, grass, waterfall, and sound. Many great ninja come from these great villages to take the exam. Sound was created just last year, so there isn't that much info, but the rest of the villages are filled with talented youngsters. Kabuto said. Makes you lose your confidence. Hinata said with a stutter. So, basically all these people are. Sakura questioned. Yes, like Lee and his team, they are the top genin from the various countries. Kabuto finished. All around the room all eyes were on the rookies. Gaara's team, Lee's team, and the lone sound team were the most interested. Hee, it looks like he made it after all. Kankuro said. Gaara only gave a sadistic smile. Looks like they still want some. Maybe you should have knocked more sense into them. Neji spoke. So that kid thinks our village is insignificant, does he? Dosu said. Bandaged sound dude. I say we play with him. Zaku said. Spiky-haired sound dude. Hee, good idea. Let's help him to improve his data. Sound nins are vicious. Dosu said. The 3 hidden sounds leapt off their seats and rushed the leaf genins. Kabuto and Naruto noticed the sound nins approach and watched closely. As the sound nins got closer, Zaku jumped into the air and threw 2 kunai at Kabuto, which were easily dodged. Then Dosu got right up in front of him and swung his arm at Kabuto. Kabuto once again dodged it completely. He dodged it, Sakura thought. Good speed, Sasuke thought. And then Kabuto's glasses broke, which put everyone into shock except Naruto. I see, that kind of attack, thought Kabuto. What was that noise? Naruto asked Kyuubi. That ninja used that thing on his wrist to magnify the vibration to injure his opponent. Kyuubi said. Naruto looked around at the confused faces. How come no one else heard it? Naruto asked. Because it is not supposed to be heard, it just makes the eardrum vibrate with so much intensity it injures it. You only heard it because of your improved hearing, which will also help you if you fight him. Kyuubi said. How? Naruto asked. That's something you have to figure out. Kyuubi said with a chuckle. What happened, he dodged that? Sasuke asked. It must have glanced his nose, that's what you get for acting like a big shot. Shikamaru said. Just then Kabuto's world went vertigo and he puked. Everyone looked on, confusion evident in their stares. Kabuto-san, Sakura yelled and ran over to help him. Everyone was thinking the same thing, he dodged it, so why? Then a huge blast of smoke filled the entrance and there stood a bunch of Chunin with a man in a trench coat leading the group. Quiet down, you worthless bastards, yelled the man in the trench coat. Henceforth known as Ibiki. Thanks for waiting. I'm Morino Ibiki, the examiner for the first test. Almost all the people were scared at the sight of him. You sound guys, stop doing as you please. Do you already wish to fail? Ibiki stated. Sorry, this is our first time, we kinda got excited. Dosu explained. I'll say this, there will be no fighting unless the instructor says so. Do I make myself clear? Ibiki said in a very intimidating voice. Most people nodded. Good. Now instead of where you are sitting now, you will pick up a number and then sit there. Then I will hand out your test. Ibiki said. Sakura then looked at Naruto. This is not a good test for him. Sakura thought. Everyone got their number and sat down in their assigned seats and received their tests. Naruto looked disappointed. Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Hi Hinata, what's up? Naruto said. He didn't even notice it was her sitting there because he wasn't paying attention. Let's do our best, Hinata said as she smiled and of course blushed. Yeah, good luck, Naruto said to help encourage her as he smiled back. Okay, listen up and listen good, I'm going to explain the rules, no questions allowed. You will start this exam with 10 points. Every question you get wrong you lose a point. There are 10 questions on this test. Next, this is a team test, so how good you do is determined by your team's total score. So each team will see how much of the initial 30 points they start with they can keep. Sakura slammed her head into the desk. Now before anyone thinks to question this, just listen. The next rule and most important rule. Anyone caught doing sneaky activities, like cheating, by one of the testing officials, you will lose 2 points for every offense. So some will be kicked out of this exam before it is finished. Know that the pathetic ones who get caught cheating are destroying themselves. You are ninjas who are trying to obtain the rank of Chunin, so be proud, ninja. Ibiki said. Okay, it's okay. Even if Naruto doesn't get any points, Sasuke and I will just cover him. Sakura thought. Last rule. Anyone who loses all their points or fails to answer a question right, will be failed along with their 2 teammates. Ibiki finished. Sakura and Sasuke immediately went from calm to a weird new feeling of shock, confusion, and anger all rolled into one. Now then, the test will be 1 hour. The 10th question will be given out 15 minutes before the end of the test, so you have 45 minutes for the first 9 questions. Begin. And then it all started. This could be very bad. Naruto, please just don't get 0 points. Thought Sakura. Contrary to what Sakura and Sasuke would have thought, Naruto was the calmest person in the room. Yo, hey Kyuubi, can you help me with these questions? Naruto asked Kyuubi in his head. Hey, no problem, this should be easy, Kyuubi said. And then Naruto started the test and 3 minutes later he finished. Thanks Kyuubi, Naruto thought. Ibiki and all the Chunin examiners were completely surprised that Naruto had completed all 9 questions in 3 minutes. Hinata was just as surprised. She was gonna help Naruto cheat and hopefully get him to like her more, but he had done it himself. Naruto had caught Hinata's distress and wrote something on the top corner of his paper. Naruto decided it was gonna be a long hour, so he put his head down on the left of his paper. Sakura and Sasuke both saw Naruto go through all the problems, and then write something on the top of the exam, and then lay his head down. They were confused to say the least but needed to worry about their own tests. Everyone who gathered what type of exam it was started to use anything in their capacity to cheat. Sasuke activated his Sharingan to copy someone's movements. Sakura had did it all her own, and when she was finished she got taken over by Ino. The sound nins were using the sounds of the people's writing to get the answers. Kiba used Akamaru, and Shino used his bugs. Tenten had used the old mirror trick to get her and Lee the answers they needed. Neji used his Byakugan to see through people and copy their answers. Hinata too used her Byakugan, but when she used it she saw what Naruto wrote on the top of his paper. Hinata, it's okay, you'll do just fine, but if you need any answers just copy them off of my paper. Hinata's eyes widened in shock, and when Naruto noticed this he knew she had gotten his message. He wasted no time and erased his message so no one else could read. Of what he could tell, only 4 people saw the message, one of which was Ibiki, but since he didn't do anything he figured it was alright, he just didn't want to push his luck. Needless to say, Hinata whispered a thank you to Naruto and copied his answers. Naruto had taken the rest of the time to get a lesson from Kyuubi. By the end of the 45 minutes out of the 51 original teams there was only 33 left. Naruto noted that Hinata was smiling the biggest smile he had ever seen on her, and that the rest of the rookies were still in it, as well as the Sand team, Kabuto, and Lee's team. Kankuro then entered the room and Ibiki started to talk again. Well then, now that he's done playing with his dolls we can get started. Ibiki said, taking Kankuro by surprise. We will begin the 10th question, but first I have some additional rules I must add. These will be the rules of desperation. Ibiki said. More rules? Why doesn't he just give it a break? Sakura thought. Okay, first you have to decide whether you want to take it or not. If you don't wish to take it then you will lose all your points and you and your teammates will fail. What? If that is the consequence then of course we'll take it. Someone yelled. Ah, but if you take it then get it wrong then you will be a genin forever. Ibiki said. What kind of rule is that? There are people here who have taken this test before. Kiba yelled. Ibiki started laughing. You guys are unlucky this year, it's my rules, but I'm giving you a way out. So choose now. Ibiki said. Naruto was easily the calmest genin in the room because with his heightened senses he could tell that Ibiki was bluffing. People started giving up. After a few teams left there was only 26 remaining. Ibiki took a look around and found that there was only 2 people who were unsure of what to do. Sakura and Hinata. Sakura wasn't worried about herself, she was worried for Naruto. Hinata was worried that if she didn't get it right what her family would think. Both girls looked at Naruto to try and get a feeling of what to do and they got their answer. Naruto was sitting there with a grin on his face like he knew something someone else didn't. So they decided that they would trust Naruto and both their doubts were gone. Ibiki knew that it was done. Everyone in that room decided, so it was time to announce the 10th question. Everyone in this room has passed. Wait, what do you mean? What about the 10th question? Sakura asked. Almost everyone was shocked that Ibiki had announced victory without asking the question. There is no 10th question. Or rather, the choice to take the question or not is the 10th question. Everyone's confusion was wafting, but there was still some questions that needed to be answered. Then what about the other questions? If you were just going to pass everyone after the 10th question, what was the point? Tamari asked. Ibiki grinned. Those questions already served their purpose. Those questions were there to test you on your information gathering skills. Since the rules said that success is based on the whole team doing well, it puts pressure on you not to screw up. Of course the questions were set up that most genins shouldn't be able to answer them. Ibiki said and shot a glare at Naruto. Everyone caught this and looked at Naruto. So the Dobi did answer all the questions without cheating. How did he get so good? Sasuke wondered in his head. How was Naruto able to answer all those questions? Even I had problems on some of them. Sakura thought. Everyone else was thinking along the same lines. And then Ibiki continued. Because of this most people came to the conclusion, I have to cheat to pass. So we put a couple chunins in the group as to give you guys the answers without being obvious. But those who cheat poorly and get caught, fail. Ibiki said and removed his bandana to reveal horrible scars, burns, and holes. Most gasped at the sight. Information is the most important thing to most shinobi and they give anything to have it. If you get caught there's a chance that the information you get is fake. Ibiki put the bandana back on his head and continued. When you're a chunin you will be in charge of important information that you will have to protect for your comrades in your village. So we had you gather information. Which clearly got rid of all of the people who didn't have the right abilities. Ibiki said. But what about the final question? It doesn't make sense. Tamari said. Ibiki gave a warm smile that freaked everyone out. The 10th question was the purpose of this test. When you're chunins you will be put on dangerous missions. You will tend to ask yourself if I should or shouldn't do it. You will face uncertainties such as, are there guards? How many? Are there traps? Etc. So do you take the assignment? The answer should always be yes. The people who think there will always be next year are despicable. You should always take any mission given to you, no questions asked. So those of you who chose to take it, passed. I wish you luck from here on in, Ibiki said. And then there was a crash and the window to Ibiki's right burst into shards of glass as a woman came through and stuck 2 kunai into the ceiling to show a banner. Everyone just sweat dropped at the scene. This is no time to be celebrating. I'm Mitarashi Anko, I'm the second test examiner. Now let's go. Follow me, she yelled. Everyone stared wide-eyed at this new examiner. Bad timing, Ibiki said. Anko looked around the group and noticed something. 78. Ibiki, you left 26 teams. This year's test must have been too easy. Anko said, sounding disappointed. This year there are a lot of outstanding ones. Ibiki said. It doesn't matter, I'll cut them in half in the next exam. Anko explained in a giddy tone. What? She'll cut us in half? Sakura thought. This is getting exciting. I'll explain everything when we switch locations. Everyone follow me, Anko said and started to leave, but Ibiki whispered something to her. I need to borrow one of them, Ibiki whispered in a calm voice. Anko merely nodded. As everyone started filing out, Ibiki nodded to one of the Chunins and then nodded at Naruto. The Chunin understood and went to Naruto. Excuse me, may I ask that you stay behind? The Chunin asked Naruto. Hinata, who was still there next to Naruto, was confused and then scared. I hope Naruto-kun doesn't get into trouble because he let me copy, Hinata thought. Naruto nodded to the Chunin and sat back down. Everyone who was left thought it weird that Naruto was now sitting instead of leaving. Kiba went over to Hinata. Hey Hinata, let's go, Kiba said. Hinata nodded and gave one last look to the calm Naruto still sitting there and left with Kiba. Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto, Ibiki and the Chunin were the only ones left. Come Naruto, we're going to be late, Sakura pleaded. Ibiki stepped up. You two should go, I have to talk to young Uzumaki. Naruto here. Anko gets upset when people are late. And she tends to get bloody, Ibiki said, not taking his eyes off of Naruto. Sakura and Sasuke nodded and started to leave. Ibiki looked at the Chunin and gestured for them to leave as well. They nodded and puffed away. Sasuke and Sakura, these next 3 scene changes are at the same time. What do you think he wants with Naruto? Sakura asked Sasuke as they ran to catch up with the rest of the genin. Sasuke looked at her and then back at their target. Don't you find it weird that Naruto finished the test before everyone else? Sasuke asked. Sakura nodded. This means that there was no one to cheat off of, and yet that Dobi still answered all the questions. Sasuke added. Maybe he found it futile, so he just guessed on all the questions, Sakura said, trying to figure the situation out. Sasuke shook his head. No. Of what I saw, there were a bunch of people who copied off of him, and when I took an answer someone got from Naruto and worked backwards to see if he was right, I found out that he was, Sasuke said. Sakura looked Sasuke wide-eyed. So he answered all the questions and they were most likely right? Sakura asked and Sasuke just nodded. They were nearing the rest of the group, so they slowed their pace and stayed in the back of the group where they saw a few people stare at them and look away. If anything, Naruto just showed the rest of the people that we are good, or at least he is. So most likely we'll be targeted in whatever the next exam is, Sasuke said. Sakura just nodded as they walked behind the big group until they reached their next testing area. The rest of the testing genins. They were all walking towards their next destination, following closely behind Anko. They all were curious about what the next test would be. Most, of course, were thinking about Uzumaki Naruto. Their thoughts were along the lines of, how did he finish in 3 minutes? Or, how strong is he? The members of the Rookie 9 were discussing matters amongst themselves. So how do you think Naruto finished that fast? Ino asked. Everyone was brought out of their original thinking to figure it out. He's been studying, so what? Shikamaru said as he peered up at the clouds. Everyone thought on this for a second and all came to the same conclusion. But the question is, when did Naruto decide to study? Shikamaru added. How do we even know he got them all right? He probably just put a bunch of nonsense on the paper, Kiba said. Hinata was next to him. Shino said, and then everyone looked at her. She was in deep thought that she didn't even hear any of the conversation. Hinata, Kiba said, and broke her out of her thoughts. As she looked around, she noticed that they were looking at her. Anyo, yes Kiba-kun, Hinata said timidly. You were sitting next to Naruto, did you happen to see his paper? Kiba asked. Hinata nodded and looked at the ground. So did he get them right or did he just put a bunch of nonsense on the paper? Kiba asked. They looked like they were right. Hinata said timidly, not looking up from the ground. I got all my answers from him and I think he's in trouble because of it. Hinata said as tears started welling up in her eyes. Everyone looked at her expecting an explanation when Shikamaru interrupted. I don't think they would do such a troublesome thing. Ibiki already said we all passed, so there shouldn't be any problem. Shikamaru said reassuringly. Everyone was a little confused. Hinata nodded, feeling a little better. Sakura and Sasuke finally reached the group. The Rookie 9 looked at them momentarily and then looked away. They are probably the most troublesome team. Shikamaru muttered under his breath so no one heard him. The group stopped at what they assumed was the next testing area. They stopped in front of a big forest that had a very disturbing aura to it. This is test course 44, labeled the Forest of Death, by those who have been in there. Anko announced. Everyone looked in awe at the sight before them. This will be the area for your next exam. You will spend 120 hours within the forest, roughly 5 days. The hopeful Chunin tensed at Anko's statement. She continued, you will be doing an all-out, survival, scroll hunt. Anko saw the confused faces and took out 2 scrolls to clarify. You will be fighting against each group for possession of these scrolls. Each team starts with either the Heaven or Earth scroll. In order to pass, you will need to get to the center with both scrolls. In order to accomplish this goal, you can use any means necessary, that includes killing your opponent. Anko said, and she looked about her at the faces of the genin. She took note that there were some unsure ones, and the maniacal ones who were smiling. There is going to be a bit of deaths this time around. Anko took note. I will need you to sign these forms in order to participate in this exam. All members must turn in their form before the exam starts or none of them may participate. Anko said. She got a shocked expression from all members of the Rookie 9 and all the genins looked over at Sasuke and Sakura. Wait, our teammate was kept behind by Ibiki. We can't be penalized because of that. Sakura stated. Anko just smiled a wicked grin until a Chunin came up to her and whispered something in her ear. Her grin was then removed by the message she got and she was then a bit worried. She looked right at Sakura and Sasuke, and she looked at all the other anxious faces. Damn, this is problematic. Anko thought. You will have 20 minutes, read over the form and decide if you will take it. No more time is allowed. If your teammate hasn't returned by then you will be disqualified. Anko said in a deadly serious tone. Sasuke and Sakura flinched. Now then, in 20 minutes you go to the booth behind me to exchange your 3 forms for a scroll. Anko said and vanished in a puff of smoke. Everyone gave one last look to the 2-man team and went their ways to discuss the next test. The 8 members of the Rookie 9 were standing there. Sasuke was getting pissed again and Sakura was getting worried. Kiba had a cocky smile. Shino had a stoic face and Hinata was worried. Of course you wouldn't notice since she was looking down. Shikamaru had a bored expression. Choji was munching on chips and Ino was worried that her crush and friend wouldn't be able to continue because of an idiot. Naruto. After the Chunin disappeared, Naruto was left in the room with Ibiki. Naruto was wondering why exactly he was left alone in the room with what looked like a very intimidating guy. Ibiki broke Naruto's thoughts. Do you know why I asked you to stay? Ibiki asked. Naruto looked right at him and shook his head. You broke the test record. You completed the first test in 3 minutes. I have a file on everyone in the test and you are supposed to be the bottom of your class. Ibiki said. Naruto was confused. Is that a bad thing? Naruto asked. Ibiki flinched. The supposedly smartest of your class took 15 minutes to answer the 9 questions and here the bottom student does it in a fifth of the time. Something smells fishy, Ibiki said. Naruto caught on to what he was insinuating. You think I'm an imposter? Naruto asked. Ibiki nodded and reached into his jacket and pulled out a kunai. And is there anything that will prove my innocence? Naruto asked. I've already sent for some Anbu and others to help put this matter to rest. Ibiki said. The best thing you can do is remain where you are and don't give me a reason to think that you're hostile. Naruto just sat there waiting until he thought of something. And what about the next exam? My team can't proceed without me, right? Naruto asked. I have informed a Chunin to make sure Anko understands the situation. Ibiki said reassuringly. This of course didn't ease Naruto. I would have preferred you to relay the message to her. Not many people like me. Naruto said downheartedly. Hey, don't worry, if you are actually the brat, I told one of the Chunin who actually respect you to relay the message. Even though they're hard to find, some people actually acknowledge you for what you gave up for the village. Ibiki said. Naruto physically relaxed. After waiting a couple minutes, a group of Anbu, 3 Hyuga, the rookie 9 Junin and the Hokage entered the room. They all stood in front of Naruto with a good distance in front of him and weapons at the ready. So do you know why we are here? The Hokage asked. Naruto nodded. The Hokage continued, so do you have any objection to our inquiries? He asked. Naruto shook his head. Good. The Hokage then waved his hand at the Hyuga as if signaling for them to do something. All 3 activated their Byakugan and scanned Naruto. Kakashi lifted his forehead protector to reveal his Sharingan. After the Hyuga finished their investigation, one went to the Hokage and whispered their results. He's not using Genjutsu or any other ability to change his appearance. He is Uzumaki Naruto. However, there is something strange. The Hyuga reported silently to the Hokage, who raised his eyebrow in curiosity. The Hyuga continued. His eyes have become unnatural, they're more feline than human, they have slits. The Hokage immediately gazed at Naruto as if he was the most important thing in the world. Naruto sighed. This is not going to be easy. I guess you get your way, they get to see my eyes. Naruto said to the Kyuubi. It was only a matter of time. The Kyuubi said in a concerned tone. Naruto looked right at the Hokage and took off his glasses. Everyone gasped and gripped the weapons they were holding. My eyes aren't the only things that have changed, I have improved my ears and nose also. This enables me to hear people better, such as when they whisper something important to someone else. Everyone visibly tensed, they were fearing the worst that could have happened. Has the Kyuubi taken control? Kakashi asked, extremely worried. Naruto glanced over at Kakashi. No, I'm still Naruto. He hasn't taken control, nor has he attempted to take control. Naruto said reassuringly. Of course this didn't deter anyone and Naruto knew it. I'll just have to let them ask their questions and hope they believe me afterwards. Naruto said to the Kyuubi. Hey little kid, you got yourself in a tight spot. Kyuubi said. I know, was all Naruto could answer with. Naruto, when did this happen? The Hokage asked. The night before Kakashi announced that we would be taking the Chunin exams. Naruto answered. Everyone was sizing Naruto up, looking to find some way to figure out how to handle this situation. Can you communicate with the Kyuubi? The Hokage asked. Yes, Naruto answered. Everyone tensed again. Are you in complete control of the Kyuubi? Ibiki was the one to ask. I have no control over him, was Naruto's response. This worried everyone the most. I have been in constant communication with the Kyuubi this whole week, and he's been nothing but helpful. Naruto said, trying to reassure them. And how has the Kyuubi done that? Asuma asked. I was able to master my chakra control thanks to Kyuubi. Naruto said. Kakashi and the Hokage relaxed a bit. I was also given a couple of jutsus to help me. This made everyone curious. What kind of jutsus? Kurenai asked. Naruto then held out his right hand and concentrated a little chakra to his hand and compressed it to form his fire. Everyone stepped back as they saw fire come right off his hand. What is that? Kurenai asked. It's my Kitsune Bai, Naruto said as if it was nothing. Then out of nowhere the fire turned from fire to electricity. Everyone there gasped. Naruto released his Kitsune Bai and looked at the shocked faces in the room. And the Kyuubi taught you this? The Hokage asked. Naruto nodded. Is there anything else? The Hokage wondered out loud. I have learned how to forge things, use seals, and other various things. Naruto claimed. I also have an ability similar to the Sharingan, I call it the Kitsunegan. Naruto said. The eyes on the members in the room widened. You what? Asuma asked. Naruto activated his Kitsunegan to show the group. Everyone flinched at the sight of Naruto's eyes, they resembled the Kyuubi's so well. Naruto, being satisfied that they all saw the ability, deactivated it. He looked at everyone for their reactions. The Hokage thought it best to end this meeting soon. Naruto, your new abilities are quite unique. At this moment in time the only thing that we can do is trust your judgment. I think that by what you told us there isn't a threat at this time, so there shouldn't be need to worry. The Hokage said and looked about the room at the elder ninjas. They all seemed to agree with his decision. I will inform the more empathetic members of the council about this so that there will not be a controversy about you hiding your abilities to threaten the village. The Hokage said, and Naruto was feeling better that this was off his chest. Everyone's thoughts were interrupted as they heard a poof. They all got in their fighting positions until they realized it was just Anko. There was a party and no one told me? Anko asked jokingly, then she took note of the seriousness in the room and asked. What's the situation? She asked. The Hokage looked as if he was thinking of how to finish this. After the next sections of the exam we will have to talk more on this subject. The Hokage said. Naruto nodded, glad that this was almost over. I suggest you tell your teammates about your new abilities. The Hokage announced. Naruto was confused, so the Hokage clarified. The worst thing for a team is hiding your abilities. Say for instance that you're in a mission and you haven't told anyone your abilities. The leader of your team might send you somewhere where he believes your powers will be beneficial. Now if you haven't told your team about your abilities, then someone might be sent to a place where your abilities would be more suited. In this instance, a member of your team could be killed because you were more suited, yet no one knew that you were. The Hokage stated. Naruto understood completely. The Hokage turned to Kakashi. Can his abilities be copied? The Hokage asked. Naruto was a bit upset that the Hokage asked that. Kakashi shook his head. This made the Hokage sigh in relief. Good. Everyone was then confused. Anko was totally lost, so she just listened. Since your abilities can't be copied, we can label them as a bloodline limit, this way there will be less questions. Everyone but Anko then understood and felt a bit more relieved. I will put in the records that you have an eye ability called the Kitsunagen, and since we do not know the extent of the jutsus you will learn, I will put that you have an unknown number of bloodline abilities. Is this acceptable? The Hokage asked. Naruto nodded. The Hokage then looked over at Anko and began. Have you started the next exam? No, I gave all the teams 20 minutes with the excuse to read over the forms and make their decisions. We have about 5 minutes. Anko said. The Hokage nodded and looked back at Naruto. You are free to go, just remember what we talked about. The Hokage said. Naruto got up and bowed at all the upper-level shinobi and started to leave. He stopped at the door and looked back. Everyone was confused at why he stopped until he asked his question. Where is the next exam? Naruto asked sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his neck. They all totally forgot that no one had told him where to go. Anko pulled out a map and handed it to Naruto. You are to report to Area 44. It's the one circled on the map. Anko said, and she pulled out a sheet of paper and handed it to him. Fill this out and have your team fill you in on the rules for the exam. You have 5 minutes, so you better hurry, she said. Naruto nodded and ran out the door to the next area. Anko turned back to the rest of the group and they looked at her incredulously. What? Anko asked. Kakashi covered his Sharingan and answered. You know he won't make it in 5 minutes. So why didn't you take him? You guys would have made it there in a minute. Kakashi questioned. Anko took on a devious smile and responded. I just wanted his team to sweat. I told them that they got 20 minutes, no more. Anko said. Everyone's sweat dropped. The Hokage coughed to get everyone's attention. When he had it, he made his announcement. What Naruto has just told and shown us is not to be told to anyone else without his discretion. People already look at him as if he was the Yukai already. If they were to find out he was in constant communication with it and that he had its powers, just think what would happen. Everyone shuddered, knowing exactly what the Hokage meant. I will post his blood limit in the records and tell a select few members of the council. No one here is to announce this to anyone else. Understood? The Hokage asked forcibly. They all nodded and gave an affirmative. You are all dismissed, the Hokage said, and they all scattered in whatever direction they were to go. Anko appeared at the Forest of Death with 2 minutes left. She looked about and found that everyone was ready excluding the Rookie 9. Sasuke kept looking in every direction. Sakura and Hinata just stood there with their heads down. Shino was leaning against a tree just waiting. Kiba was in an argument with Akamaru. Ino was trying to provoke Sakura to no avail. Shikamaru was looking at the clouds. Every once in a while he glanced about. And Choji was just eating. It looks like he at least has some friends. Anko thought as she looked at her watched. A bug had just landed on Shino's outstretched hand. Shino raised his eyebrow and pushed himself off the tree. He walked over to the group, which everyone looked right at him because of it. He's on his way, Shino said. Everyone sighed in relief, but Shino continued. He won't make it. He has less than a minute and he is at least 5 minutes away. Everyone looked at him as if he were crazy, then Anko stepped forward, which caused them to be worried. 20 minutes are up, everyone turn in their slips and get your scroll. Anko said, knowing full and well even at running speed it would take at least 6 minutes. She walked over to the group of rookies. I gave him 20 minutes and he didn't show up, which means you're disqual. She didn't finish however, as Naruto dropped out of the sky at that second and landed with a huge thud and created a small crater. Everyone was just plain shocked. Anko of course was the most shocked by his appearance. Naruto's way to Area 44. Oh yeah, here come some new abilities. Naruto ran out of the academy and looked at the map. He now had 4 minutes and from the looks of the map it would take longer. If this is some kind of test to see if I'm a capable ninja, I'm going to be mad. Naruto thought as he was running to the location. By the looks of the map, no one without a teleportation skill or super speed could make it. I'd say she knew you wouldn't make it on time. Kyuubi said. Well, I guess I'll show her what I'm made of, right? Naruto announced to Kyuubi and gave a grin, which was returned with another grin. Naruto stopped abruptly and gathered chakra to his hands, shoulders, and feet. All 6 plates then had a sealed glow on them. If anyone was looking at him, he went from tense to relaxed in a second. Naruto then jumped up into a tree. When he jumped it looked like he was just floating up the tree. When he reached the top he quickly grabbed the closest branch. He pulled himself onto the branch. As he stood up on the branch it kind of looked like he wasn't even standing on it. He looked in the direction of the forest where he was to go. When he spotted it, he crouched down on the branch and grabbed hold. He turned away from the forest and got ready to push off. When he pushed off of the tree he was floating backwards above the village. Just to let you know he cannot fly, there is another explanation. He looked behind to judge if the trajectory was adequate and gathered 2 very powerful kitsune bai, 1 in each hand. Naruto let out a breath and slapped his hands together, making a very powerful explosion that sent him flying to the forest. He was just zooming over Konoha backwards until he turned in mid-air to make sure he was on course. When he saw he was getting close he once again put chakra in the 6 plates. As he was getting closer Naruto activated another set of kitsune bai but smaller. He turned around and slapped them together making a small inaudible explosion and plummeted to the ground at a very fast rate. He turned just in time to land on his feet and make a crater in front of his shocked classmates. Everyone was shocked at what they saw. Here, from out of nowhere, someone falls out of the sky fast enough to make a crater. Not only that, but this person's clothes and hair are singed, which meant that something which involved fire is at fault. And the last fact is that this is the missing genin who almost got their team disqualified. The most shocked was of course the people in front of him. When he landed everyone else was getting worried that this guy was in fact strong and they would possibly have to fight him, to the death, in the next round. There were a few exceptions. There were some in the group that were actually excited. These groups are Lee's team, Gaara, the Sound team, Kabuto's team, and a group of grass ninjas. They all thought about finally being able to have a good fight. The rookie 9 who were once pensive were now quite nervous of Naruto. Anko was quite surprised. She was just going to play with the group until Naruto arrived, but he made it on time, which should be impossible for a genin. And of course the fact that he came out of the sky was very unnerving. Naruto was starting to stand from his landing. As they got a good look at him they noticed that he was breathing heavily and that smoke was rising off of him. Naruto was now standing before the rest of the rookie 9 and as he looked around he saw that all eyes were on him. Every hero needs to make a heroic entry. Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his head. Everyone's sweat dropped and yet they were relieved that the Naruto they once knew had not completely vanished. So did I make it in time? Believe it or not you did. Anko said, still in a little disbelief. That's good. Now then, on to the next matter of business. Naruto said. Everyone was confused. Why the hell did you have me come here by myself when you could have brought me here? Naruto yelled, pointing accusingly towards Anko. Anko was a little afraid for herself now that she was caught red-handed. Well, you see, I kinda wanted to make your team sweat a bit. Anko admitted and immediately noticed the killing intent being thrown at her. She immediately escaped and went near the booth and started announcing what can get you disqualified since she forgot to say it before. The rookie 9 weren't listening, instead they were taking note of Naruto. Then they all noticed something irregular about Naruto. His eyes, they had cat-like slits in them. Naruto noticed that his classmates were looking at him wide-eyed. He was trying to figure it out when he finally realized what they were looking at. Shit, I forgot to put my glasses back on. Naruto thought as he glanced at his fellow ninjas. No one decided to talk about it because he would tell them about it when he was ready to. After Anko's speech about what gets you disqualified, she signaled for the genins to get their scrolls. The Rookie 9 split up to get their scrolls and plan ahead. Team 10. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji were thinking of what to do. They had just received their scroll and were waiting in front of their assigned gate. Shikamaru was going through a lot of plans in his head trying to figure out a best course of action when Ino decided to ask. Okay, so how are we going to this? Ino asked. We are probably the weakest group and there are a lot of strong people in this test. I don't want to get killed. Ino said, a little nervous. I would have suggested going after Naruto's team, but things have seemed to change. Shikamaru said. Ino looked at him like she was expecting a further explanation. Before, Naruto always fought Sasuke, and Sakura would always fight with Naruto, which gave an enemy advantage. Now Naruto is more collective. Ino was now completely lost. What do you mean? Ino asked. A couple of days ago Naruto came up to the hill I was playing a nice quiet game of shogi on. When I saw him coming I thought, now that he was there I wouldn't be able to concentrate. When he noticed me he came over and watched me quietly. I asked him what he wanted. He actually asked me if he could play. I tried telling him that there wasn't anything special about the game, but he insisted. Shikamaru said. Ino was getting a bit intrigued. So what happened? Ino asked. The first game we played was pretty much a tutorial. Then we started playing more seriously. After about 5 games he said that he had to get back to training and thanked me for teaching him how to play and for playing with him. Shikamaru stated. So he's starting to get more interested in more stuff than just power, ramen, and Sakura. Choji decided to add. That's not my point. He didn't complain once, he was patient and collective. Also I always play shogi, so I figure I'm pretty good since Asuma-sensei says that he is one of the best and I have a record of wins against him. And Naruto was doing well against me on the last 2 games. He was matching the strategies I came with and lasted quite a while. Shikamaru added. Ino and Choji both realized that if someone got Shikamaru's praise in shogi they must be good. Now on to why we can't go after them. 1. Naruto is a decent strategist. 2. Sakura is overall smart so she will most likely be able to find an advantage easily, and Naruto outbeat her on the written test which suggests he has gained the same knowledge. And 3. Sasuke is the #1 rookie, he is strong, fast, and he has a variety of jutsus available. And Naruto is also strong and I don't know what kind of techniques are available to him. So in conclusion their team is not a wise decision to go after. Shikamaru said, as he looked up to the clouds. So what team should we go after? Ino asked. One of the Leaf teams, they seem to be the most nervous about this exam. We just have to stay away from Naruto's team, Kiba's team, and Hyuga Neji's team. We should be fine otherwise. Shikamaru stated. Ino and Choji both nodded in acceptance to Shikamaru's plan. Team 8, Hinata, Kiba, Akamaru, and Shino were standing outside their gate waiting for it to open. Kiba and Akamaru were getting a bit impatient. Shino was standing there stoically and Hinata was in the background a bit nervous. They weren't talking, they didn't have anything to discuss, they had already known what to do. It was the same they always did. Hinata would use her Byakugan to locate an enemy. They go to intercept the enemy. Shino sets up traps using bugs, and anyone who escaped the traps would have to face an assault from Kiba and Akamaru. Team 7. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura had just received their scroll and were waiting for the start of the exam. Naruto was there trying to come with a plan until Sasuke broke into his thoughts. Alright Dobi, spill it. Sasuke demanded. Sakura looked at Sasuke as if he were crazy and then looked at Naruto accusingly. Spill what? Naruto asked, not really wanting to get into this right now. How you finished your test so fast? Why you were kept behind? And your eyes? I want to know what the hell you're hiding from us and I want to know now. As the team leader these are things I demand to know. Sasuke demanded. Sakura flinched at how cold his words were. Naruto looked straight at Sasuke and gave his answers. I finished my test so fast because I've been studying a lot. I was kept behind to discuss just that matter. And as for my eyes, during training I stumbled across a bloodline ability that changed my eyes to that of a fox. The way they are now is just a reaction to the ability," Naruto said. Obviously his answers weren't full truths, but they made sense, and that is what he needed to do. Sasuke was a bit skeptical, but let it go for now. They had the next test to worry about. Sakura noticed that Sasuke was letting it go for now and sighed in relief. All the gates opened and all the Chunin hopefuls jumped into the forest going for the targets they feel will be the best to go after. Naruto and Ko entered and headed away from the entrance at a comfortable speed. After a while of travel they took a little break in a small area. The whole way Naruto was trying to come up with a good plan for this test. He came up with one and started to put it into motion. "Hey, I'm gonna go take a piss. I'll be right back," Naruto said. Sasuke nodded and Sakura was disgusted but nodded nonetheless. After he got behind a tree he went to the next step. First he used all his senses to make sure no one was around. When he was satisfied no one was around he activated his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. When the smoke cleared for the ability there were 10 Narutos. The real one looked around the group and said silently, "Okay, you 4 stay with Sasuke and Sakura-chan. 3 of you stay completely hidden so you can stop ambushes. You 5 will come with me. Now then let's go." All the Narutos nodded and went their ways. 3 Narutos concealed themselves as one went back to the rest of Team 7. Sasuke and Sakura took note that Naruto had returned. "We're going to take this time right now to get supplies," Sasuke stated. Naruto and Sakura nodded. Sasuke distributed jobs. They separated to get what they were assigned to get. The 3 hidden Narutos also separated. One followed Sasuke, and the other 2 followed Sakura since they can't lose a teammate and the other clone isn't important. This of course was a good idea because while Sakura was gathering her portion of the supplies a ninja appeared in front of her. This ninja of course looked exactly like Sakura. Sakura immediately dropped her gathered supplies, but it was fruitless because she was knocked out. As the look-alike Sakura was getting ready to tie the real one up, the 2 Naruto clones came out of their hiding place and attacked the imposter. Before the imposter knew what was happening he was kicked in the gut. As he was kicked back the other Naruto swept the legs of their opponent from behind him causing him to fall towards the ground. The clone that initiated the attack followed through his counterpart's attack by a kick to the imposter's head which sent it into the ground with tremendous force. Both clones stood up to look at their handiwork. The imposter's henge was released to reveal a mist nin with a gas mask on. One of the clones went to tie the mist nin up while the other woke Sakura up. As the clone shook Sakura she woke up immediately and shot up to look around her surroundings just to find a knocked out mist nin and 2 Narutos. "What happened?" Sakura asked the 2 Narutos. "Well, you were attacked and knocked out. We came in and beat him up," the clone stated calmly. "What should we do with him?" the other clone said. Sakura looked at both Narutos one after another. "Why are you here?" Sakura asked. "We were just making sure something like this didn't happen. There's a clone trailing Sasuke as well," one of the clones stated. The clone that was binding the mist nin picked him up and put him over his shoulder. The one that tended to Sakura got up and jumped into the trees. "Let's go, we should decide what to do about this situation," the clone said as he started heading back to the meeting place. Sakura followed wary of another attack. The 2 reached the meeting place to see that Sasuke was already there. Sasuke looked up to see Sakura and Naruto coming up to him. He immediately took note of the enemy Naruto had and stood up. "What happened?" Sasuke asked. "I was attacked," Sakura admitted guiltily. "TCH, just great already being attacked and it's this early in the exam," Sasuke said angrily. The clone's enhanced senses picked up a disturbance and pushed Sakura out of the way as a giant wind blast picked up catching Team 7 by surprise. The clone immediately popped out of existence as the current hit him. There was too much dust so the clone's disappearance was well hidden. Sakura was pushed into Sasuke and they landed outside of the blast. After the smoke cleared the 2 of them were just getting up as Naruto came up to them. "Are you guys okay?" Naruto asked. They both gave a small nod and then out of nowhere another Naruto dropkicked the Naruto who had asked if they were okay. Sasuke and Sakura were taken aback at the sight of 2 Narutos looking at each other preparing for a fight. The 2 Narutos were sizing each other up trying to find the right time for the first attack. Sakura and Sasuke couldn't tell who was who and didn't quite know how to handle this situation. The real Naruto. This is right after they split up. The 6 Narutos were using their enhanced senses to find other ninjas as to accomplish their objective faster. They had sensed a team just a little ways from where they left the rest of Team 7. And were heading there right now. When they got to where the team was, they spotted them taking this time to gather supplies. The team was warily eating, glancing about, making sure no one would sneak up on them. Luckily Naruto's eyesight gave him a good distance so as to not be spotted. Naruto came up with a fairly simple strategy and used his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu again. This time there was 36 Narutos and every one of them transformed. Now Naruto looked like he was half of the people taking this exam. Each team split up to surround the unsuspecting team. The real Naruto disguised as Lee gave his signal and all the teams rushed in. The team in the center, now fully aware of their predicament, glanced about. What they saw scared them. This area they claimed for a slight break was to become a battlefield. As all the Narutos reached the area they started attacking each other and the other team. The only one not getting hit was the real Naruto. His target was the real target. The real team was doing all they could to defend themselves from this all-out brawl. If they were smarter they would have realized 2 things. 1. They were the only ones getting hurt, and 2. Ninjas wouldn't go after a scroll using these kind of tactics. Of course the reason Naruto had chosen this kind of plan was for 3 reasons. 1. Confuse the enemy. 2. He didn't want to go against an entire team by himself. And 3. After the team recovered he didn't want them to know who was responsible for taking their scroll. The real Naruto got behind one of the members of his objective and activated his electric version of his Kitsune Bai. He put his hand right on his opponent's back where his heart was. The ninja collapsed onto the ground unconscious. He repeated this with the other 2 members of the team. He ordered his clones to leave. After they had all disappeared he searched for the scroll. He found it and was a bit disappointed that it was the heaven and they needed the earth. I guess I could always negotiate for the other one. Naruto said to no one in particular. Then Naruto felt one of his clones poof out of existence. He set off to help his team. He really hoped that he wouldn't be too late. Back with Team 7. This is probably going to be confusing. The 2 Narutos were looking at each other trying to decide who should go first. One got tired of waiting and charged the other. The charging Naruto went to punch the other's chest but was blocked and countered with an uppercut. The charging Naruto evaded the attack and went for a sweeping kick. The sweep missed as the receiving Naruto flipped over the leg. As he landed he went for a kick towards the other's head. The charging Naruto saw the attack towards his head and blocked the kick with his forearm. He then grabbed the other Naruto's leg with his free hand and used his forearm for leverage as he flipped the other onto the ground. As the Naruto hit the ground, the Naruto flipping him received a kick to the head and he flew into a tree. The Naruto on the ground disappeared into smoke and they all saw that another Naruto had kicked the once winning Naruto into the tree. Sasuke and Sakura had gotten severely confused with the new Naruto. Sasuke, Sakura, why are you guys just sitting there? Help me. The Naruto that hit the tree yelled at them. Sakura and Sasuke then figured out which was the real Naruto. When have you ever wanted my help before, Dobi? And you always use the chan suffix with Sakura. Sasuke asked. The Naruto that asked for help started to cackle. Looks like I made a little mistake. The fake Naruto announced and he then released the henge. There before the 3 members of Team 7 was a grass nin. Hee, you are pretty good, Naruto-kun, so let's just get this out in the open. I have the Earth Scroll, but if you want it you will have to kill me. The grass nin, henceforth known as Orochimaru, stated. He then pulled out the scroll and swallowed it. The 3 genins were disgusted by that show. Naruto was trying to figure out what he was going to do. Orochimaru glanced to both his right and left. Naruto noticed this, but before he could do anything he felt the 2 clones that were hiding vanish. Naruto figured that this was going to be a tough fight. Orochimaru looked at Naruto as if he was piercing into his soul. Sasuke and Sakura were trying to come up with their own plans when they saw the way Orochimaru was looking at Naruto. Orochimaru called out, "Sene Jashu." Then snakes shot out of his hand and struck Naruto through the chest. Team 7 looked at the snakes protruding Naruto's chest in shock. Naruto frowned before he disappeared into a cloud of smoke. Orochimaru smirked when he saw Sasuke's and Sakura's expressions. Now that I've dispatched the clones, it's just the 3 of us. Orochimaru said. Sakura and Sasuke looked at him as if he was crazy. Orochimaru reached up and grabbed his bottom eyelid and pulled it down. Sakura and Sasuke looked at the now revealed red eye and saw horrific images of their deaths. They both fell to their knees. Sakura was unable to process any thought while Sasuke puked. What the hell was that? Sasuke thought, then he realized he could not move. Damn it, what is this? It's not genjutsu, no, this is fear. This is nothing but killing intent, and it's so horrific that we can't move. Sasuke thought as he looked over at Sakura. She was so terrified she couldn't move, not even to blink. Orochimaru pulled out 2 kunai and tossed them at Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke saw the kunai coming towards them. Move, 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 move. Sasuke chanted in his head as he willed himself to plunge a kunai into his leg. After the kunai hit flesh, he leapt over to Sakura, grabbed her and retreated to the trees. Sasuke ran for a minute with Sakura in hand. He stopped at a large tree, very shaken. He set Sakura down and dressed his wound. Sakura awoke from her stupor to see the fear running all over Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, wah. Sakura started but was abruptly stopped by Sasuke's hand over her mouth. He was looking around the tree making sure their enemy wouldn't get them. A giant snake appeared behind Sasuke so suddenly with no noise. Sakura saw the snake but couldn't say anything with Sasuke's hand over her mouth. She pushed his hand away and yelled, "Sasuke-kun." Sasuke looked at her and then saw the snake. Shit, Sasuke berated in his head. He quickly pushed Sakura to safety and jumped away from the lunging snake. He was clear from the first strike, but the snake recovered quickly and lunged at him again. As Sasuke looked at the eyes of the snake, he was reminded of his fear. "Get the hell away from me!" Sasuke yelled as he threw a multitude of kunai and shuriken at the snake. The projectiles entered the beast's head with enough force to pierce through its skin, killing it instantly. Sasuke landed on the tree huffing. Then the snake's skin began to crack and out came a body. As the person stood completely, Sasuke and Sakura were once again afraid of what could happen. Well now, Sasuke-kun. It's not wise for prey to stop running when the predator has its eyes on you. Orochimaru said as he started slithering towards Sasuke. He got halfway to him when he was kicked in the head. Orochimaru, getting severely annoyed, took the hit and struck back with a punch to the offender's stomach. The offender disappeared into a puff of smoke and Orochimaru was kicked again in the stomach. Orochimaru, tired of this game, kicked the offender, making him disappear. Another kick came at Orochimaru from nowhere, but Orochimaru was through playing games and before he was hit punched the offender in the gut. Sasuke and Sakura were shocked and relieved to see Naruto after Naruto jump out of the trees and strike Orochimaru. Every Naruto went for a distinguished blow to try and stop Orochimaru. Alas, whenever Naruto got within striking distance, he was hit and disappeared before he could hit Orochimaru. Orochimaru was getting severely annoyed with the endless amount of Narutos. How much chakra and stamina does this kid have? Is he not even getting tired summoning these cage bunchins? Orochimaru thought. No Naruto could hit Orochimaru, and despite what Orochimaru thought, Naruto was indeed getting tired continuously summoning bunchins. Naruto just summoned another set of 10 cage bunchins and fell to a knee. Damn, I can't keep this up. I'm not causing any damage anymore. Time to switch strategies. Naruto thought as he stood back up and saw the last of his bunchins enter the fray. Naruto then remembered Haku's attack. He summoned 50 more bunchins, and regardless of the exhaustion he felt, he sent them to surround the area. Sakura and Sasuke couldn't move for a few reasons. 1. They were still afraid of Orochimaru. 2. They were shocked to see that 100 or so Narutos were coming out of the trees in an endless stream only to be disposed of as he got close to Orochimaru. And 3. They had no idea of what to do. Orochimaru just dispersed the remaining clones and looked around to find the next attack. What the three saw next shocked them. Throwing knives were sent at Orochimaru from every direction with extreme speed. Since when has Naruto used throwing knives? Sakura and Sasuke thought. Orochimaru dodged the knives by dropping below the branch he was standing on. As the knives hit the branch, they exploded. What? They all thought. Orochimaru was thrown down by the explosion. They didn't have any explosive notes attached to them. So how? Orochimaru thought Sasuke and Sakura were thinking along the same lines. Naruto didn't let up and started throwing the knives constantly. Orochimaru had to move quickly as an endless stream of knives attacked him from every direction. Everyone around the forest could hear the constant explosions from within the forest. This of course had some of the genins extremely nervous that there was something in the forest that could cause extreme explosive damage. Sakura and Sasuke had to jump away as the explosions were getting too close to them. Orochimaru, finally tiring out, decided he needed to put an end to this or he could actually lose by a mere genin. Orochimaru watched the stream of knives to pinpoint the attacker's location. He saw where every Naruto was hidden and pulled out 51 shuriken and threw them with extreme force that no Naruto dodged the impact. All the clones disappeared and the real one was struck in his stomach. Ouch. Naruto pulled the shuriken out of his stomach and winced at the immense pain that followed. Sakura was worried that something bad happened to Naruto. Sasuke was more worried that now that the threat of Naruto was over, Orochimaru would resume his attack against him and Sakura. What an ass. Orochimaru, Sakura and Sasuke gasped in surprise as Naruto jumped into view with red eyes blaring. They all took note that he was holding his stomach and blood was flowing. Sakura knew that a stomach wound like that hurt a lot and were almost always fatal. Ah, so the real one finally shows himself, Orochimaru said with a grin. Orochimaru removed his grin when he saw the stoic face of Naruto. Those eyes. So that's why, he's the Kyuubi brat, Orochimaru thought. Sasuke took note that Naruto must have reached his limit. Sakura couldn't fight good enough to fight practically anyone, and Orochimaru was way above his level. Wait, Sasuke yelled. Everyone looked at him as he pulled out the heaven scroll. This is what you want, take it and leave us, Sasuke said. Orochimaru smirked. Naruto was pissed at Sasuke but was in too much pain to stop him and could only watch the conversation unfold. Sakura was a little upset but didn't want to be killed. They still had to treat Naruto or he could die. I see. Give the predator something else in order to save yourself. Truly despicable, Orochimaru said, giving off a very weird grin. Whatever, Sasuke said and threw the scroll to Orochimaru. Orochimaru caught it in one hand and held it for them to see. You have what you want, now go, Sasuke exclaimed. Ah, but who said this was what I wanted? Orochimaru said as he set the scroll ablaze. Sasuke and Sakura looked on in horror as Orochimaru brushed the ashes from his hand. Naruto was teetering on unconsciousness and could barely comprehend the situation at hand. He knew what happened, just couldn't find any way of reacting as he fought to keep conscious. Hey Kyuubi, can you do anything to help me? Naruto asked in his head as he winced because of the pain. The wound is fatal, my power is able to heal it but it will take time. I can however numb the pain and give you a surge to keep you awake, but in your condition you won't be able to fight on par with an enemy of his caliber for long. It will only last a few minutes. Also, the ability I will use to numb your body has a very bad consequence. After its effects wear off you will feel all the pain tripled. So your stomach wound will be monstrously painful as well as any injury you sustain while in this condition. Kyuubi said in a caring tone. Do it, if anything I can stall him long enough for Sasuke and Sakura-chan to escape. Naruto said. A burst of chakra shot through Naruto. He could no longer feel anything and he was fully energized. He knew of course that it was false energy and that after the effects wore off the pain would be tremendous. As Naruto was receiving his help, Orochimaru and Sasuke were already in combat and Sakura was rushing to aid Naruto. When Sakura got there she saw that Naruto stood completely straight and looked as if he wasn't hurt at all. Naruto, are you alright? Sakura asked in a caring tone. Naruto looked at her. For now, I'm going to try and stop this snake freak. He should be getting tired from all the attacks I sent at him and his fighting with Sasuke. Naruto said. Sakura looked at him as if he were crazy. You can't fight in your condition, your wound will just get worse. Sakura pleaded. She's right, Kyuubi stated. Naruto ignored both of them. When you get the chance go get Sasuke and you two get out of here, Naruto said. Then he jumped to fight Orochimaru. Orochimaru had just used Kanashibari no Jutsu on Sasuke. Sasuke was frozen in place as Orochimaru did a bunch of hand seals and his neck extended towards Sasuke. Sasuke closed his eyes so he didn't have to see the possibly fatal wound. When the attack didn't hit he opened his eyes to see that Naruto was in front of him and Orochimaru bit into Naruto's neck. Orochimaru's eyes widened in shock as he disengaged from Naruto's neck and went back to how he should look. A seal then appeared on Naruto's neck. The seal looked a lot like 3 commas circling each other. Naruto winced from the feeling. "I thought I wouldn't be able to feel anything?" Naruto asked as he grabbed his neck. "You're not supposed to. This is not good. Anything painful enough to go through my ability will kill mortals after the effects of my skill wears off." Kyuubi said. "You bastard," Orochimaru said, and he noticed that Naruto was barely affected by the seal. "Well, now that's interesting. I've never seen anyone withstand the pain of the curse seal before," Orochimaru said. Naruto glared at Orochimaru and rushed at him, figuring that he will die in the next couple of minutes anyway. Sakura took this time to go to Sasuke, who was still frozen. Orochimaru saw through Naruto's speed and figured in contest of strength Orochimaru would win. So using his logic, Orochimaru went for a punch to Naruto's face while Naruto went for the gut. Both fists connected with their targets, but Naruto's punch was more than what it seemed. As Orochimaru felt contact from Naruto's weak punch and the contact from his punch, he inwardly smirked. Before Naruto was thrown back by the punch, a 12-inch blade shot out of Naruto's glove. Orochimaru was shocked by the feeling of a blade entering his flesh where he was punched. Since Naruto was punched at the same time as his punch, the blade only went in 4 inches before Naruto was knocked back into a tree. Sakura and Sasuke looked wide-eyed at this seemingly invincible enemy that was now bleeding. Orochimaru looked down and saw the blood and was amazed at Naruto's trickiness. As Naruto hit the tree, his senses were coming back. The effects of the numbness are wearing off. Kyuubi said. Naruto tried to ignore the pain while he charged at Orochimaru. Orochimaru decided that he better play it safe by avoiding any more tricks this seemingly non-human Naruto could throw at him, so he used his tongue to grab Naruto and hold him. Naruto, now starting to feel a lot of pain, couldn't focus as he was grabbed by Orochimaru's tongue and held up to eye level with him. Naruto gave very little resistance, which made Orochimaru's job a lot easier. "This kid will be good. Maybe I can get him to join my side as well as Sasuke-kun. Of course Sasuke-kun will be my host while Naruto-kun can be my high guard." Orochimaru thought, all giddy as he did some seals and stuck his hand into Naruto's stomach. Sakura and Sasuke feared the worst when Naruto got caught, but what happened scared them more than that. "Arg!" Naruto screamed, a blood-curtailing scream that held more pain than anyone could ever imagine, for the whole forest to hear before he passed out. Orochimaru, who was shocked at the sheer velocity of the scream, was worried that he would be found with that noise. He threw Naruto towards Sakura and Sasuke and called out, "I must be going, but keep this in mind, Sasuke-kun, you will never reach Itachi's level staying in this place," Orochimaru said as he melted down into the tree. Sasuke was going through a lot of emotions right then that he didn't even realize he could move again. Sakura ran to Naruto, who landed a few feet in front of them, and checked to make sure he was still alive. When she was sure he would live, she turned to Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun, more people might come to this location, we have to go somewhere safe," Sakura said, almost in tears by the scream Naruto let out. Sasuke only nodded as he went to help Sakura carry Naruto somewhere safe for now. They were both shocked that anyone could be alive with all the pain Naruto must have felt. As they picked him up, they realized he was much heavier than he usually was. Naruto's yell was heard by everyone in the forest, and a lot of them knew who made that yell. All the genin stopped what they were doing as the sound of the most horrific scream ran through the forest. Anko, who had been traveling through the forest to find Orochimaru, heard Naruto's scream of agony. Her blood ran cold at the sheer pain that was within that yell. Something big must have happened to make him yell out in pain like that, Anko thought. She started heading in the direction it came from. After a minute of travel, she found what she first came in the forest for. Orochimaru stood there clutching his stomach where Naruto had stabbed him. "Damn it, what did that brat do to me?" Orochimaru said in his head. He was too distracted to notice that Anko had landed in front of him. Orochimaru was distracted because Naruto's attack did more than just go 4 inches into him. The wound wouldn't heal. Now Orochimaru wasn't a medic nin, but he still knew basic healing jutsus. However, every jutsu he tried had the same effect, absolutely nothing. And what's more, he was having a lot more trouble forcing his chakra to the designated place it needed to go. So Orochimaru was here dying by a cut and Anko had just found him. Orochimaru thought this day would be simple. Find Sasuke, give him the curse seal, and get away without any disturbances. Out of his 3 tasks he only accomplished one. Orochimaru, Anko said. Orochimaru's eyes widened in horror at the voice of his former prized pupil. Shit, damn you Uzumaki Naruto. I cannot fight in this condition, I'll surely die. Orochimaru thought in horror as looked up and glared at Anko. Anko looked at the glare and saw a bit of fear in his eyes. What happened to him that made him so afraid? Anko thought as she looked down at Orochimaru's wound. To say she was shocked was an understatement. Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, was bleeding profusely from his stomach. She looked at his feet to see that a pool of blood had started to form. She looked at his face to see that all the color was removed. He's dying, Anko thought. Now of course her job was to come in here to kill him, but by the looks of him he wouldn't survive but 30 minutes. There was no way he could fight in his condition. What happened to you? Anko asked. She wanted to get as much out of him as she could before he died. I underestimated one of the genin in this test. He pulled a trick on me. I was too careless, Orochimaru said guiltily as he winced from the pain. Anko was shocked that a genin would be the downfall of one of the greatest ninja of all time. There is someone that powerful in this test, as a genin. Anko thought, afraid for whichever team would face such a monster. Do you know who it was? Anko asked, trying to find possibly the biggest threat to Konoha. Yes, I do. That damned brat. First he takes the curse seal to protect his teammate and then attacks me as if it were nothing. Orochimaru said in a snide tone. Anko was now even more afraid. Someone who was given the curse seal would have their power amplified, but to keep fighting after getting it was extraordinary. This is extremely bad. I have to report to the Hokage immediately. Anko thought, frightened. Stupid brat. If I survive this I will kill him. You hear me? I will kill you, Uzumaki Naruto. Orochimaru yelled, regretting it immediately as the pain shot through his body again. Anko was shocked beyond belief that Uzumaki Naruto had done this to Orochimaru. Then she remembered the yell that belonged to Naruto. So that's it, they fought and now they're both regretting it. Anko thought, still speechless at the revelation. Orochimaru was growing cold. He knew his time was coming and there was nothing he could do about it. He watched Anko thinking of how to solve her problem, and then she shot a look at him. What are you doing here anyway? Anko asked forcefully, trying to think of something besides Naruto. Orochimaru was shocked that she had asked him that, but got over it. Well, now with the way it looks I'll take that secret to the grave. Orochimaru said more in a grunt than words. Anko was now a little worried that something was going to happen and she didn't know what. Orochimaru was getting woozy and was about to pass out when he saw something coming their way. Orochimaru smiled at the sight. Anko saw Orochimaru's smile and was worried that something not good was about to happen, and she was right. Anko felt her body stiffen and then she couldn't move. 3 leaf nins came from behind her and went towards Orochimaru. She recognized them from the genin test, but she had no idea why they were here. They rushed past her heading towards Orochimaru, and before she could call out to warn them they were already next to Orochimaru. What appeared to be the leader leaned down next to Orochimaru. Orochimaru-sama, are you okay? The white-haired genin asked. Anko was perturbed by the fact that a leaf nin had asked an enemy if he was okay. Orochimaru was falling deeper into unconsciousness, so the white-haired genin started to use a scanning jutsu that is used by medic nin. He stopped at the wound on Orochimaru's stomach and his eyes widened in shock. Orochimaru-sama, your blood isn't clotting and medic jutsus can't heal it unless your blood starts to clot. Kabuto said. Orochimaru looked at Kabuto warily as he was slowly slipping to his death. Anko looked at both Orochimaru and Kabuto in shock. What did that brat do to him? Anko wondered. Kabuto thought for a second and had a good idea, hopefully. He pulled out a pill from his pouch and offered it to Orochimaru. This is a blood-clotting pill. Hopefully it will negate whatever is happening to you. Kabuto said in a hopeful tone. Orochimaru didn't think twice as he took the pill from Kabuto and ate it. Kabuto activated his scanning jutsu again and sighed in relief that the pill had indeed worked. Kabuto then activated his healing jutsu to make sure that Orochimaru wouldn't die. Orochimaru could feel that he was being healed and was thankful that Kabuto had made it to him in time. Anko was worried. Naruto may have caused a fatal blow to Orochimaru somehow, but this traitor was able to screw up his plans. Damn it, all of Naruto's work was useless and now no one will figure out Orochimaru's plans until it will be too late. Anko thought to herself as she watched color return to the Snake Sage's face. The two remaining members of the supposed Genin team were looking around constantly, making sure there wouldn't be a trap for them. Kabuto fished his healing and stood up. Orochimaru was still conscious, but he was in no condition to fight. Kabuto pulled out his curved blade and looked over at the still motionless Anko. Anko saw the look on Kabuto's face and knew she would die today. Kabuto started to walk forward but was stopped. "Don't kill her," Orochimaru stated weakly. Kabuto looked back at Orochimaru for an explanation. "We need her to tell the Hokage to continue the Chunin exams. If the exams were to end well, I couldn't be held responsible for what I might do," Orochimaru said with a slight smirk. "Although it's sad that you three can't continue the exam because your cover has been blown, it's all for the best, I think," Orochimaru said as he signaled for the Genin to help him up. As the Genin helped him up and supported him, he looked at Anko. "You're lucky today. This will not happen again because that brat will be under my control shortly, due to the seal," Orochimaru said with a smile. "And just think of the kind of monster he will become under my tutelage," Orochimaru said, giving off a small laugh before the pain resurfaced. Anko looked at him worriedly. Orochimaru signaled for them to leave and that they did. Anko was left stuck where she was as the four of them disappeared into a cloud of smoke. "I have to warn the Hokage about this. I'll have to send a unit to retrieve Uzumaki and his team for questioning," Anko said as she was released from her immobility. She headed off to the central tower to inform everyone there of the threat. "I do hope that you are okay, Uzumaki Naruto," Anko said sadly as she ran through the forest as fast as her feet allowed her to. Team 10. They had heard Naruto's scream of pain and were terrified. Ino was worried about her friend and crush alongside Naruto. Shikamaru and Choji worried about them as well, just not as passionately as Ino was. They were heading to where the scream had originated in hopes that they could help in any way possible. They arrived at the battle point to see that it was filled with craters, blown-up trees, and blood trails every which way. Ino held her hand up to her mouth at the destruction of the place. She was on the verge of tears. Shikamaru and Choji saw Ino's despair and decided to look for any clues of survival. After several minutes of searching, Choji came across a trail of blood leading away from the battlefield. He signaled for Shikamaru to confirm his findings. Shikamaru came over and studied it, and in a very quiet voice so Choji could hear he said, "All the blood minus a small amount was from the same person," Shikamaru said dismally and then continued. "The injured person was most likely Naruto. Sakura and Sasuke must have carried him off. Most likely they were leaving this area to get away from possible enemies due to their current condition," Shikamaru said as he looked back at the frozen Ino. He got up and went over to tell Ino his findings. Ino saw Shikamaru coming over to her with a grim expression which started to scare her. "What do you think happened?" Ino asked, barely audible, holding tears in her eyes. Shikamaru looked around the battle site looking for something to disprove his analysis. When he found none, he started to give Ino his theory. "I'd say they came across a very strong enemy. There is shattered metal in each crater, which means the explosions were caused by a metal catalyst. So most likely each weapon had some sort of explosive tag on it," Shikamaru stated, looking around again to make sure his conjecture couldn't be proven wrong. Choji was making sure they wouldn't be ambushed while Shikamaru gave his theory. Ino was listening intently, waiting to hear about what happened to their friends. "The fight was ranged throughout this whole area. I can't tell who had the upper hand in the battle, but I can be sure that there was only one enemy," Shikamaru stated. Ino and Choji looked at him with wide eyes. He continued, "There is a lot of blood around the area, and the majority of it came from the same person," Shikamaru said. Ino was now terrified. "There is a small amount over there that came from the enemy. The proof I have that it came from the enemy is that it is sitting there with no trail while the massive blood trail leads to it and away from it," Shikamaru said. Ino's hopes that Shikamaru was wrong were vanishing with the proof he was giving. Shikamaru sighed. "The next part is the worst news I have," Shikamaru thought and then continued. "By the looks of the battlefield, I have concluded that Naruto was the only one who fought with the enemy," Shikamaru stated in a disgruntled tone. Choji and Ino both looked at Shikamaru in shock. And by the looks of this place, I'd have to say that he is severely injured. Shikamaru concluded. Ino was in deep thought about the situation while Choji didn't know what to think. He blurted out his question. So Naruto did all this? Choji asked. Shikamaru looked around once more and nodded. Choji couldn't find anything else to add, so he looked at Ino to find out what to do. Ino noticed the look from her two teammates, and she remembered back in the days when she was friends with Sakura and what caused their friendship to end. She made a decision. We should find them. If what you say is true, then they could be in trouble and need help. Ino stated timidly. Shikamaru and Choji nodded and they followed the blood trail that Choji had found. Team 8, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino had already gotten the scroll they needed at the beginning of the test and were heading to the central tower to rest for the remainder of the exam. Then they heard Naruto's scream of pain. They had already made it 3/4 of the way there and had instantly stopped to hear the terrifying scream. Kiba and Shino were shocked to say the least that they were this far and could hear Naruto as clear as day. Hinata on the other hand was scared and almost in tears when she heard the pain-filled scream. Kiba looked at Hinata with concern while Shino was stoic. Hinata was struggling with what she should do when Shino said something. We mustn't go, Shino stated casually. Both Hinata and Kiba looked at Shino with shock and pain. But what if Naruto-kun is in danger? Hinata asked fearfully. Kiba looked back at Hinata and made his decision. Hinata, even if we go we would be too late and would only be endangering ourselves. And who knows, they all may be fine. Naruto was probably just overreacting about a small cut. Kiba said as he gave a small laugh. He looked back at the unconvinced Hinata. He continued, the best thing we could do is go to the tower and wait for them to arrive there. Kiba said reassuringly. Hinata nodded and gave one last look in the direction the scream had originated. She wiped the forming tears from her eyes before they headed to the tower once more. Everyone else was either wondering what the hell could make someone yell in that much pain. They mainly stayed away from the location of the scream in order to avoid whatever it was that caused that much pain. There were only 3 teams who decided to stay around that area along with Team 7. And soon enough they would all meet. Team 7, Sasuke and Sakura were carrying Naruto to find some place for shelter. As they were carrying him, his temperature dramatically increased. Sasuke had looked at the curse seal a couple of times to see what Naruto had protected him from. As he looked, the curse seal was constantly glowing, and every time it got brighter Naruto would get hotter. Sakura was worried about many things. Almost all had concerned Naruto. He was getting unbearably hot and his stomach wound looked like it was only getting worse because of the constant blood flow. They needed to get somewhere safe as to get Naruto into at least a better condition than he was in at the moment. They found a small little area where they could deal with Naruto's condition at least a little. Sakura, try whatever you can to close the wound. I'll keep watch for a while, Sasuke said as he left the confines of the alcove that Naruto was placed in. Sakura started to take off Naruto's jacket and shirt. When she took off his jacket she felt that it was extremely heavy for a jacket, but she didn't have time to worry about that. She looked at Naruto's shirt. It was covered with a vast amount of blood. It also had rips here and there. It was pretty much unwearable. She proceeded to take it off and was shocked at what she saw. Besides the fact that the amount of blood that was on his body was scary, he had seals on his abdomen. What are those? Sakura asked as she brought her hand down and touched the seals. As she touched Naruto's abdomen he flinched, most likely due to pain. She then started to clean the area surrounding the wound. After it was clean she wondered what she was going to use in order to dress the wound. She looked in her pouch to see if she had placed anything in there, and to her dismay she had not. She looked over at Naruto and said, well, it wouldn't hurt to see if he has any. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. She lifted the lighter Naruto up slightly to remove his pouch to see if he had any bandages. When she opened the pouch she was completely taken by surprise by the first thing she saw. When did Naruto get this? Sakura asked as she pulled out the heaven scroll Naruto had collected. She looked at it briefly and decided it wasn't the time for that, and she went back to looking for some bandages. She had found a roll of bandages neatly placed in his pouch. She dressed Naruto's wound quickly enough so she went back to pondering when Naruto had time to get another scroll. She remembered the mist nin that had attacked her and figured Naruto had taken his. She then took notice of the blade attached to his hand. She realized that her first thought of it coming out of his hand was incorrect. It was collapsible and came out of a contraption under his glove. Naruto was now burning hot, almost unbearable to the touch, yet he laid there peaceful with a few flinches but nothing too drastic. The seal on Naruto's neck was glowing red and was the focal point of the heat. Sakura was very concerned and she couldn't do anything but watch her teammate die. She got up and walked out of the alcove to talk to Sasuke. "How is he?" Sasuke asked unemotionally. He was indeed thought about what Orochimaru had said, so he didn't even turn to look at Sakura. Sakura on the other hand had a very worried expression. She was afraid that Naruto wasn't going to make it, and it was because none of them knew how to heal serious wounds. "I don't know," Sakura stated through unshed tears. "I think that the wound in his stomach is fatal. And I think the seals on his body are making his condition worse," Sakura said as she let a tear roll down her cheek. Sasuke finally looked at her and saw that she was indeed crying. Sasuke took notice that Sakura was holding a heaven scroll. "Where did you get that?" Sasuke asked incredulously. Sakura was shocked by Sasuke's outburst but answered nonetheless. "Naruto had it in his pouch. I think he got it from that mist nin that attacked me," Sakura said. Sasuke looked at her again and walked into the alcove. Sakura followed and saw Sasuke go for Naruto's weapon pouch. "What are you doing?" Sakura asked in shock. "I want to know what this dobe is hiding from me," Sasuke said as he detached the pouch from Naruto's hip. He walked past Sakura and out of the alcove. Jerk. Sakura gave one last glance at Naruto and went after Sasuke. "I don't think you should mess with his stuff," Sakura said as she caught up to Sasuke. Sasuke was beyond reason. He wanted to know exactly what Naruto was hiding and he didn't want to wait. Sasuke was standing in the middle of the area that they had claimed as their safe house location. He opened the weapons pouch to find 4 throwing knives, nothing else. Sasuke was confused, so he took out one of the knives and looked at it intently. Sakura was also looking at it for some sort of explanation, but didn't see anything that could make it explode. Sasuke was also stumped and was getting a little irritated. "It doesn't make sense," Sasuke said. Sakura looked at him and he continued. "He must have done something to them when he threw them, but what?" Sasuke asked as he threw the knife into a tree. As the knife hit the tree, it exploded. Sasuke and Sakura looked worried that their position was compromised, while in the alcove Naruto had shot up because of the explosion. As Naruto shot up, chakra shot through the seals Orochimaru had placed on Naruto. Naruto winced as severe pain shot through his neck, abdomen, and stomach wound. The pain eased and the 2 new seals disappeared, causing a new shot of energy through Naruto. This was pure energy, the kind you get when you're well rested. "What the hell was that?" Naruto asked. "That was the seals being removed from your body. The seal that holds me got rid of the one your neck. The seal that was placed over my seal was removed by the seal on your neck," Kyuubi said. Naruto was slightly confused, but remembered why he woke up. Naruto reached for his weapon pouch to protect him from whatever caused the explosion. When he found his pouch missing, he knew exactly what caused the explosion. He looked around the alcove for the rest of his clothing. He found his shirt and jacket a few feet away from him. Upon looking at his shirt, he knew it wouldn't work as anything but a wash rag. He grabbed his jacket and put it on. The zipper was broken, so he would have to make do with the bandages keeping him semi-warm. He left his jacket on just so he didn't feel naked. "And now to find out what that bastard has done," Naruto said as he walked out of the alcove. Sasuke and Sakura looked extremely worried and went to get Naruto so they could get to a new location. As they headed to the alcove, a kunai was flung right in front of them. They turned to see where the kunai came from and found the 3 sound nins that attacked Kabuto. Sakura looked worried while Sasuke was trying to figure out a way to get out of here. The 3 sound shinobi were looking at Sasuke and Sakura as if they were studying them. Then they noticed the heaven scroll in Sakura's hand. Dosu started to laugh, which unnerved Sasuke and Sakura. "Well, now Orochimaru said to just come and kill Uzumaki Naruto, so if you hand over the scroll we will not harm you," Dosu said as Zaku started to chuckle. Ino's team, who had arrived at the same time as the sound team, looked at Sasuke and Sakura to see what their answer was. Sasuke thought about this choice and was going to give his answer but was cut off by someone else's words. "Don't you dare even think about doing it," Naruto said. Everyone looked at Naruto shocked. Sakura was glad to see that he was alright. Sasuke looked at him incredulously and everyone else was transfixed on the blade that looked like it came right out of his arm. Naruto continued, "That scroll is mine. You may have been willing to give up the other one without a fight, but I don't like my belongings being taken without my permission," Naruto said. Now all eyes were on Sasuke, who was thinking of giving up what appeared to be Naruto's scroll, took Naruto's weapons, and gave up his original scroll without even a fight. Sasuke was ready to defend himself, but was cut off by Dosu. "Well then Uzumaki Naruto, I have orders from Orochimaru-sama to kill you for what you did to him," Dosu said. Naruto looked confused for a sec, then realized who Orochimaru was. "Oh, so that snake freak survived, that sucks," Naruto said stoically and then continued. "Well then I guess we're even. Him surviving my critical wound and me surviving his." Sakura then remembered Naruto's wound. Ino's team looked at him like he was insane. "Of course you trying to kill me sets the bar towards his side," Naruto said. Zaku grinned at his statement. Naruto then thought of the seals placed on him. "Well I guess we'll be back to even since I removed the seals he placed on my body," Naruto said as he grinned. The sound nins however were a bit terror-stricken. Orochimaru said that he placed the curse seal on him by accident. "But that seal is supposed to be a removable," Dosu thought. The other two were thinking along the same lines. Everyone was looking tense as a fight was about to start, but then something happened. Naruto fell to his knees and coughed up some blood. Everyone looked right at him, some had faces of horror while the sound nins were pleased. "Well then it looks like you won't be able to fight properly, so we'll just take out the other two first," Zaku said with a grin as he lunged at the unprepared Sasuke. Sasuke caught his mistake and went into a defensive pose. Zaku struck Sasuke with an open palm which turned into a wind blast as Zaku yelled, "Zankuha!" Sasuke was pushed back into a tree headfirst with so much force it knocked him out. Sakura looked at Sasuke for a brief second, but that was enough for Kin to get behind Sakura and grab a handful of hair. Now Sakura and Sasuke were both immobile. Naruto was struggling to get up and Dosu took it upon himself to attack and finish Sakura off. Dosu struck Sakura in the chest and created vibrations within her entire body, which caused her to puke and pass out. Kin released Sakura's hair and stood in front of Naruto with her two teammates. Ino's team looked on in shock as Sasuke and Sakura were both knocked out so effortlessly. Naruto was now standing and looking at the three sound nens with a look of pure malice. He touched the two metal pieces on his hands and then on his shoulders. They glowed for a second and then the glow disappeared and Naruto untensed immediately. Zaku looked confident and rushed in on the side of Naruto that didn't have the blade. He went for a punch but immediately stopped. Dosu and Kin looked at him and when he stepped back they saw that a blade was now on each of his hands. Dosu and Kin looked at Zaku to see if he was cut. He was. Naruto took this chance and attacked Kin with the blade on his right hand. She dodged but not good enough. She also had a cut from his blade and they all knew what that cut could do. Ino's team looked on in shock as Naruto shot out a blade from the back of his hand. And now the sound team was backing away from him. Naruto coughed up more blood and stepped forward. Dosu, being the only one not cut, figured out a way out of this. "We have underestimated you," Dosu started. "In exchange for passage I will give you our scroll," Dosu said as he placed his earth scroll on the ground right next to the heaven scroll. Naruto looked at the scroll, then the sound team. "If we are to fight again in this exam, or anywhere else for that matter, you will not live to regret it. Do I make myself understood?" Naruto said in a commanding tone. The sound team nodded and jumped away. Ino's team looked at Naruto doubting if they should show themselves. "Are you going to come and attack me for my scrolls or not?" Naruto said, depressed as he looked at Team 10's direction. They visibly flinched. Shikamaru was the first to react as he casually walked out of the bush. "We're not here to fight you, we're here to make sure you guys were alright. There was a lot of blood and craters at your last battlefield," Shikamaru said as Choji and Ino walked out of the bush. Naruto sighed in relief and leaned against the opening of the alcove for support. He clutched his stomach, which was where all the pain originated. Ino went over to make sure Sakura was okay, while Choji and Shikamaru made sure Naruto was alright. Ino made it over to Sakura and checked for a pulse. When she found one, she let out a breath of relief. She carefully picked Sakura up and set her against the opening to the alcove. They were looking nervously at Naruto and Choji decided he wanted to know something. Do those things come out of your arm? Choji asked. Naruto looked at the blades for a second and then back at the team who were waiting for an answer. No, they actually come from a contraption I made, so I can surprise my opponent. Naruto said as the blades shot back into the sliding contraption and made a click. The team looked surprised that Naruto had come up with something that complex. How's Sakura-chan and Sasuke? Naruto asked. Sakura is fine and we really haven't checked Sasuke yet, Ino said. Everyone looked at her, shocked that she said Sasuke's name without adding kun. She noticed everyone was looking at her questioningly so she looked away. After Naruto was able to move and Sakura was finally awake, Team 10 said their goodbyes and good lucks and took off. Naruto collected his belongings and the two scrolls. Sakura hadn't said a single thing since she woke up. Naruto lifted Sasuke up onto his shoulder. Sakura-chan, we're in no condition to fight. We should get to the tower, that way we won't have to worry about being attacked anymore. Naruto said as he found a comfortable position where he could carry Sasuke and get a good speed. Sakura only nodded and they set off. It took them 2 hours to get to the tower at a nice even pace. They stepped in and looked around to find no one in sight.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.